recently, but still been dealing with different things going on. He passed away yesterday, I believe, right? Or at least that's when the announcement was made. So if you can, please, ma'am, please, sir, just send up a little prayer for her and her family. That's tough. Anybody who's lost a parent, no matter how old, soon, what sickness they you knew they had or didn't have, it's never easy to lose one's parent. So if you can just kind of keep that in mind. And Sister Kimberly, if you see this, any version of this, whether you're with us live or watch this later on, just know that we're here for you, we're praying for you, we're thankful for you, and we're here as you have need of us. Come on. Come on. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for your patience. Let's see. I'm having an issue. Sorry. Okay. It's time. It's time. But we got it. Praise God. Thank you. All right, here we go. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, protect. Today's message, Aman. Shalom, peace, peace, peace. Welcome. Barakat Shalom, peace and blessings and peace, or peace and blessings to each and every one of you. We bring you greeting to the name Atshem Yahweh Elohim, or Atshem Yahweh Elohim, Yahweh whose title is Elohim. We thank you, everybody, for being on. Thank you for being on with us. I ask for your prayers for a little bit of health. Kind of the same thorn in the side issue. So just asking for prayer and asking for prayers for our leadership, that we lift up those who are in charge and been given certain positions and capacity. I hope that you touch and agree with us. Don't forget about all these different holy days coming up. We've been announcing, putting them out. Some of you had the calendars, etc. And somebody asked me about one. I didn't get a chance to get back to them. But just if you can take quick if you can take quick notes in your head, or if you're writing notes or typing them or recording, whatever. September 13th, which is Saturday, coming up in Baltimore, in the Baltimore area, we will have a meet and greet of sorts, but it'll be for 4 hours of power. That'll be virtual as well. Not sure if we'll do it on all social media or if it'll just be on Zoom and maybe one place on social media or something like that. But we'll have that on September 13th. September 22nd, we'll be in Houston for the Feast of Trumpets. October the 1st, we'll be in Georgia, Marietta, Georgia area. Not sure if it'll be in Marietta, but in that area, if you know Georgia, Atlanta, Marietta, all that stuff. We'll be in the Marietta, Georgia area October the 1st, and then on October the 6th to the 13th, we'll be together in Georgia at Red Top Mountain State Park for the Feast of Tabernacles. Prayerfully, we'll see some other persons around that and all that stuff, but we're going to try to put all that stuff together. And prayerfully, we'll be able to see and meet a lot of you all who are coming in person. So prayerfully, you guys can be there for us. We thank you guys so much. We honor your presence. Thank you for your prayers. Sorry I had to move, and you can hear a little bit. Maybe you can see. I don't know if you can see it, but it's raining. So I was in a whole another place completely. Some of these places where they have awnings, persons, usually on the weekends they pay to have parties and stuff there. So I had to come back to the tried and true. And so we're back in a very similar location if you guys are normally with us. But today, thank you for being on. We're going to go ahead and jump into today's message. Since it's Sunday, we're going to go a little later as well. So hang in there and get a little bit extra word. But let's go ahead and say shalom and peace, everybody. Let's go ahead and say shalom, barak, shalom, and blessings to everybody. We'll go ahead and jump right in. So how you doing on all platforms? If you're joining us on any platform, any of our virtual real estate, thank you for being with us. How you doing, Elder Anais, Sister Beck, Sister Tamika, Sister Dawn, Cultural Prospect, Dabarach. Let's see, King Say, Cassie in Health, thanks for being part of the community. How are you doing, Brother Thomas? Hopefully you're feeling better. Is it Shana Maria or Shana Maria? put 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. That I'm not even turning there. No offense, because I've got somewhere else to go. We do have Q&A on Thursday and Friday coming up, though. If you actually would like to stick around and ask a question and challenge stuff, but is that having to do with the hair, right? That I have long hair and therefore it's cursed, which is you not reading the whole scroll together, or even reading on 1 Corinthians chapter 11 within context. But I guess I'll answer that real quick before we go. But let me say hello to everybody else. How you doing, Darius? How you doing, Backup Don, Russell, Rootsman, the red, the black, and the green? I see you. I see you. How you doing? Wagwan Audrey, Shalom, peace, peace, peace. How you doing, Flip? Oh, Backup Don. I'm sorry. Same one. same Don. There's Hemebug, Spidey, Dan, David Richardson, Ruth Cobb, etc. Appreciate you. All right. So shalom and peace to everybody. How you doing? One who whispers. Welcome to all on all platforms. We appreciate you. Some platforms that will show up later. All righty. Okay. And Christopher Torres, even though you have a question that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, you're welcome as well. Now, as far as real quick, and then we'll go into today's word and message. But as far as somebody, if it is somebody, I'm gonna keep my word. I said I'm not really even gonna turn there. If somebody wants to keep me honest, I know 1 Corinthians chapter 11, we literally just went over it in yesterday's lesson. But 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14, if somebody wants to look it up, that's either where we're talking about women having hair and it being long, and that being something that's supposed to be a blessing. A woman with short hair is cursed, or is looked at as, not being who she's supposed to be. And then a man with long hair is supposed to be an abomination or something along those lines, right? Problem with that is that he's talking to Corinthians, and he's telling them about their culture, and he says, in your culture, is it not wrong for a man to have, to not have a short haircut? And is it not wrong for a woman to not have long hair? He even goes to a point where he says, then he says after that, those things are not our custom. But this one thing I did leave with you is, and what is he talking about? Passover. Meaning that if you're using this to try and describe Yehadashah or Israel, or you're trying to describe persons of the Bible and what their belief system is based off of the hair, that's not even our custom. It's not our custom to worry about a man has to have long hair or short hair. This is something that's a particular, or it could just be a hairstyle for real, but this is a particular vow that I have made to the Most High, right? So that's what so anybody who's coming on that, you just represent or have misread or don't comprehend the culture of the scripture. I mean, the person who's writing it, who's writing it to, and who he is. But today's topic, actually, we'll say our Bible pledge first, and we'll jump right in. You get a chance to say the Bible pledge. Let me be obedient. So we'll say our Bible pledge first. If you would like, if you can put your right hand in the air, if you want to put your device in the air, or if you like to even put your Bible in the air, just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahashua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible. And this is Yahshua. Hashem Yechavach. Amen. Yechavah, his name, his authority. Let it be done unto us. All right. You may be seated or go back to what you're doing in the presence of the Most High. Yah. Thank you. We're focusing, at least if you're trying to get the gist of where we're starting or where these holy days and everything come from, the gist of it. We've told everybody you can go to Leviticus chapter 23, right? And really you can even focus a little bit on Leviticus 23 verse 29 that tells us when we don't do these things we can be cut off. Today's topic, however, though, this is what, part 3, part 4 of the series, something like that. Part 4 probably. And today's topic is, can you steal what's yours? Is it possible for you to steal what belongs to you? Salah. Oh, clean hands. My bad, dude. Right? Question though. Can you steal what belongs to you? Salah. And once again, how you doing, Sister Kimberly? Praying for you. Hope all is well with you. Amen. Hopefully this can be a distraction or a comfort through tough times. Praise God. How you doing? You said you don't appreciate I'm bringing up your personal things on the line to make you feel lower. Yes, you trusted me. Okay, Sister Lauren, I don't know what personal things I brought up. You know, sometimes persons preach and teaching if the Holy Spirit is present. The Holy Spirit brings a message, and the message is something that's for all of us. Now, you could be joking with me, of course, but just if anybody ever feels offended or something like that, okay, you'd like to clear the air. Well, let me clear the air for you. We've not had a conversation about your personal life that I know, especially with anything that I just said specifically. So just know that sometimes the word can prick your heart, right? It's called, forgive me, Elder Tamara. Oh, my wife is on. How you doing, babe? Honorable Alma. As always, check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest. You can check her out at Bloom and Flourish. Elder Alma, Elder Tamara, I think Elder Nice is on. Any ministerial staff, anybody for that matter. I don't know the word I'm looking for. What is it? When you pricked, when the word hits you, I should know this word. I'm having a moment with the word. Y'all forgive me. When you are something, right? It pricks you, it convicts you. Is that what I'm looking for? I think that's what I'm looking for. When the word convicts us. Thank you, Sister Danielle. How you doing? And if Brother Joseph is listening as well, Shalom and blessings to both of you, to the family. All right? May y'all continue to bless your union more and more. Right? The spirit is pricked. Yeah, we're convicted. These are the things. So I could be speaking about something and have no clue that it's for you. Well, I believe it's for you, or else I wouldn't be giving it to you. Right? And I believe I'm supposed to be the person to give it, but I'm simply just pouring out the message. I'm the cup. Right? I'm just the cup. The water flows out, but the water, the spirit, the word has been put inside of me, has been put inside by the Most High. So I'm not doing anything other than that. If it offends you, if it makes you think about something, then you should actually think to yourself, let me talk to Yah, let me see about myself, or let a man, as we talked about yesterday, 1 Corinthians chapter 11 again, let a man or a woman examine themselves. Right? How you doing, God? Agriculture, thanks for being on. Right. So sometimes we can be convicted. Now there are times where somebody is outright maybe doing something they shouldn't with the word. There's ways we can preach the word where we can try to make you feel convicted even if it's not really Holy Spirit. But I'm talking about as far as what I'm doing specifically, I'm trying specifically to give you what I've been given. So like I said today, the theme for today, if you will, in this series called Our Holy Days, and it's parentheses 2025, we want to put that on there just because we do this teaching pretty much as a yearly teaching of some kind. And we've pretty much been given the assignment of making it a series. So, Our Holy Days, and today specifically, the theme, or the subtopic, if you will, out of the main topic, is, can you steal what is yours? That's right, if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. Right? So question, can you steal what is yours? How you doing, Terry? Thanks for being on. Right? Can you steal? Is it possible for you to rob someone of what doesn't belong to them but belongs to you? How you doing, Jay? Now somebody said, what in the world? I thought we were talking about holy days, but we are talking about holy days. We've already had, I think in part 2 or whichever one it was, where we talked about that you might have to be ready to be excommunicated when you follow these holy days, when you do really anything as far as being, or not anything, but let's say being 100% of the kingdom. But today specifically, can you steal what is yours? Because we also have an issue with the holy days that goes like this. In order for you to celebrate these holy days, you have to say that you identify as kingdom, you identify as Israel, which means that you have to identify as something that is not modern, but something that is original. I'm going to say it again, just in case somebody missed that. Right? So if I'm going to honor these holy days, as we talked about yesterday, remember we talked about how can a man, or how can one be unworthy? Can you eat or drink damnation to yourself? That's what we talked about yesterday, right? And we focused in on Passover, but we used it as a microcosm for our entire belief system. All right? So question, can you steal what doesn't belong to you? So here's what I said once again recently in this conversation. I made a point to say, hey, if I'm going to be dedicated to the holy days, what qualifies me? You have to be qualified, or else you eat or drink damnation to yourself, right? So one must be qualified to be in this walk, and one must be qualified to keep, which means to guard and uphold. Hey, how you doing, both, sir? Welcome. Right? One has to be qualified to keep or uphold these teachings. Right? Okay. So if one is not qualified, or if one must be qualified, what qualifies you? We found out yesterday that we must be persons who are of Israel, who are of the kingdom, who are also making sure that we show his death till he come back, believing that we will come back by doing the same thing that he did, right? The Lion of the tribe of Judah. The same thing he did is what we must do. So if we don't do this, or we're not worthy of it, if we come with the wrong mindset, if we're disrespectful to what's being said, because the Passover meal is not even for you to get full. It is for you to be able to partake and being one. How you doing, Sister Michelle? All right? And so in the partaking of oneness, right, you must be qualified as the one. If you're not part of the one, then for this you will eat and drink damnation to yourself for this cause, right? Many are weak and are asleep and are sick. That's what 1 Corinthians chapter 11 says, right? For the cause of what? For the cause that you keep trying to do stuff that you are not, that you are not one with, and that is not for you, right? Or you have not become one with what is for you. Many are asleep. It's as if they are asleep, as if they are sick, right? As if they are damned. They're eating and drinking damnation into themselves. Okay, so we went over that yesterday, right? Somebody even reminded us of 1 Corinthians 11 because they saw my hair and they said, oh, I got long hair. I must be a bad person, right? So we got already into the scripture before we even did our prayer or did our Bible pledge. So now that we have this in mind, question: can I steal what is mine? If it belongs to me, can I steal it? Should I steal it? Should I attempt to? Should I try? If it doesn't belong to me and I take it, especially if I take it without permission, then one is a thief. I don't care if you're stealing toilet tissue. I'll be honest with you. One of my things I recently did, wasn't even thinking about it, was just carrying it around. Shouldn't have been carrying it around everywhere I took it. I took, hotel lotion from one of the hotels I was at recently. I'm a thief. Had to ask for forgiveness. Didn't mean to do it. Doesn't matter if I meant to do it. And when I found out that I had it, I could have turned around. No. I took it. Right? According to the word, I need to repent. How you doing, big brother Charles? We don't like talking about this, but when you take a pen from your job, if the job didn't give you permission, if they did not permit you to take the pen with you, guess what? Even that's thievery. Now, the problem that we have is we're trying to make different levels of thievery. But if it's thievery, it's thievery. How you doing, Brother Alton? If it's thievery, it's thievery, right? But if something belongs to me, can I steal it? If it belongs to me, can I steal it? Now, this is a big thing because this is going to be hard for some because, once again, the person's going to go to a place, oh, you talking about black versus white and yada, yada, yada. Kind of, but that's not really the main point of this today, right? What we're really talking about is that if something belongs to you, can you steal it? Now, here's the caveat. If something belongs to you and somebody else stole it, right? Somebody else stole it. And then you want it back or you take it back. Are you a thief? Or are you simply just taking back what's yours? And this is one of the biggest problems with the holy days because a person's going to argue with you that you are not who the Bible says you are. But you're starting to come into knowledge of it and you're starting to say, hey, I'm going to be that no matter what you say. And they are trying to label you as thieves. When in reality, if you're taking back what the thief stole, then you are not the thief. They are the thief. Uh-oh. Right? See, if it belongs to me and I wasn't aware that it belonged to me because you stole it before my birth. You stole my birthright. But it doesn't mean that if I take my birthright back, that the birthright doesn't belong to me. Matter of fact, when you were living off of my birthright and living off of my name and living off of my skin, how much melanin is in this device right here? How much melanin is in this device right here? Right? How much melanin is what you're holding or watching or whatever you're doing to listen? Even in them headphones. your Bluetooth. I just saw a Bluetooth thing today that I got excited about, even though I shouldn't be using that much Bluetooth, but there's a Bluetooth cassette player. You can put the thing in the cassette, you can make sure it's charged, you don't even have to have a wire on it anymore. I said, praise y'all, because you know we be on the road. We got that old RV, and I don't mind that old RV, she does well for us, and I'm just saying that we got that RV, and I love to listen to music in the RV, and I was like, man, I got to get my hands on that, right? Right? And there's all that technology, but guess what was inside of that Bluetooth? A little bit of what's inside of us. You said melanin powers the world, come on, right? And how you doing, Brother Yosef? Praise y'all. I don't know if you caught me on the other end saying, thank you for reposting. Appreciate you. So watch this. So one of the things that makes these holy days difficult is because in order for you to say that these holy days are for the kingdom, you have to take it from the world. And the world says if you take it from them, you are a thief. I was listening, I don't remember, I've seen the brother a lot of times. I think I saw the guy interviewing him a couple of times in life, but I didn't really know who he is. But I've seen the brother, African brother, I want to say Central African brother, I could be wrong about that, but I've seen him in many interviews before. And he was being interviewed by a so-called white person. Not trying to say all white persons, whatever, just being honest. He was interviewed by a so-called white person. And they're having a conversation, and the guy basically says, I don't even think it's a so-called white person. I think it's maybe like an Indian or Pakistani person. I want to be respectful, I'm not sure, you know, which nation you're from, which corporation you're from. Thanks for being part of the community, Queen B. So, how you doing, Sister Tabitha? Thank you all for the love. Thank you on all the platforms that you're joining us on today. We appreciate you. But they're having this conversation, right? And in this conversation they're having over and over again, they come up with this thought process, and the guy says, well, wait a minute, if you're asking back what we took, if you're asking for this car, right, if I'm in the car, right, think of the thought process, the wickedness of the thought process, right, the wickedness of the thief, right? The husband said he's coming like a thief in the night because people are going to think that he's a thief for robbing them of all the stuff that they took from him and his people, right? That's how they look at us. They look at our Messiah as a thief. They look at you as a thief. Watch this. The thief, or the one who's operating as the token for the thief, tells our brother, he says, if you were to ask me for a car, because he's trying to talk about reparations or just giving back things that they put in museums, or giving us back money that they've stolen, or giving us back our culture, even in our language, to stop saying stuff belongs to you when it doesn't. And the guy says, you know what? If you were to take a car, that's robbery, that's thievery. That makes you a thief. And our brother says, hold up, how am I a thief? If you took my car, I go get my car and I bring it back. He says, well, you're not going to give me any compensation for the car? He said, you're trying, and then our brother makes it a valid point, an extremely valid point. He says, if I take the car back, hear this, beloved. He said, if I take the car back, and you try to charge me for me taking the car that you stole from me, you are more of a thief than you were before. Right? Any arguments about that, by the way? How you doing, Brother Rodney? Shalom to you. Much love. Appreciation to everybody coming on. Is that the truth? Right? If you steal from me, and I go and take back what you stole, and then you say, hey, I don't like that you took back what you stole, what I stole from you, I want you to pay me for what I stole. Doesn't that make you more of a thief? That's usury. Come on. See, Elder Tammy gonna hit you with that law. Praise God. It's wild, but it's true, because that's what persons want. They took our story, they took our culture, they took your language, they took your holy days, and now when you simply stand up on faith and on works and on principle and on what they call his story, and show them that his story really is your story, and you are supposed to be the one who gives the report. For as Isaiah 53 verse 1 says, and as Romans chapter 10 verse 16 says, who shall believe our report? Here it is that they have taken what belongs to you, And now that you have it, they're trying to still pull this Balaam doctrine and make money off of you by telling you, right, that you are not who the Bible says you are. You are not who history says you are. You are not who your mother said you are. You are not who your father says you are. Watch this. You are not who it is in your inner core, in your inner being. You remember you used to spend nights talking about something doesn't feel right in this world. Anybody been there before, right? Something doesn't feel right. And when I read the Bible, I mean, I know it's true, but something's missing. Like, what's going on? Why can't I identify? You know what? Like, anybody been there before? Like, when I look at the world, I'm trying to find a way to love myself, but this world seems to hate me. Then you finally find out the missing ingredient of who Yah is. And now, all of a sudden, these persons who didn't care enough to say anything about you as long as you were filled with contempt, right? And as long as you were scorned at the bottom, according to Psalm 123, and didn't want to have access of thought to do what Psalm 122 verse says, and come back home. Now all of a sudden, here comes the oppressor, here comes the Antichrist, here comes the so-called Christian coming up to you and I, here comes the person who's Ashkenazi or Khazarian coming to you and I telling us that, hey, all this stuff, even though it's facts, and even though it's contextual facts, which means it's the type of fact that reveals truth, it's not yours. And if you take it from us, you better take it by paying us what we feel we're owed. In other words, you better do what Haiti did, what Haiti did, to where you can work for your own independence, but we'll come together with the whole world, and when we come together with the whole world, you're going to pay us what you owe, because we still look at you as somebody who's nothing more than giving us through your work, through your vision, through your time, through your effort. We want to go ahead and have you give to us what we feel is due us, even though it's not ours, it actually belongs to you. Look up the Doctrine of Discovery for more. How you doing, Rollers? Right? You said the biggest fight in this life will be against the thief? Mm-hmm. See, they don't want to talk to us like this. We're going to preach it today. We're going to preach and teach it. I see you. And I see you. We're going to preach and teach this, because this is a dangerous place. Because if you're doing this, you are tearing apart the fabric of society. You know, just by being Israel, the Bible declares, I'm not just talking about your 66 books either. The Bible declares what? That Esau is the end of the system of things. The way Esau operates is the way the world operates, and the world must come to an end. Israel is the beginning of everything else. John 10:10 and Shalom, if that's your way of saying hello, how are you doing? G, is it Arachla? I'm not sure how to pronounce it, please forgive me. I'm not sure what John 10:10 has to do, but I guess if we're talking about what the enemy comes, as the thief comes. Oh, the thief comes. There you go. Thank you. Took me a minute. The thief cometh, but to steal, kill, and destroy. But the Chashra says, I have come that what? He has come that you might have life and what? And more abundantly. Right? Yah says, I hate Esau and I love Jacob. We're in the Malachi series. It says it right there. What you call the book of Malachi, which is actually known as the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel, the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel is the name of the scroll, right? But if you look at what you call Malachi chapter 1, verse 2, right there it tells you the first thing that actually was written in the scroll. It tells you specifically, you guys say that I'm telling you I love you, Israel. You say, how do we love you? He says, well, I've always loved you and I've always hated Esau. Esau not even being the people, because if you're going to talk about the people of Esau, it's not white people, right? There's more to Esau than that. But that being said, especially if you know the Bible, just follow the Bible, you can follow where Edom is, you already know what's going on with that. That being said, he's talking about the spirit that's upon these persons, the same spirit we're supposed to preach against in Ezekiel 35. Ezekiel 34, Israelites are not preaching this type of word and standing firm and putting Yah first. And we as the Levites are eating off of the people rather than making sure that they're eating, making sure that the sheep eat or fed. We're making money off the sheep, and when there's nothing else to make off the sheep, we just eat them, figuratively speaking. Meanwhile, chapter 35, we're not speaking against the spirit of Esau on the other mountain. And we have to talk about this. A lot of persons don't want to have a conversation about Israel, you have been taught, the world has been taught. It's Balaam doctrine. We keep talking about this. Revelation chapter 2, verse 14. We need to read Numbers 22, 23, 24. There is a prophet. He was a what? A prophet. He was a what? A prophet. He wasn't some random dude. Remember, the Bible is not written to everybody. It's not written for everybody. It's written to a family of believers that have come together, right? We just finished that Body Shot series. All right, so this family of believers, those who are grafted in, those who will make this, those who will become the family in the kingdom, adopted in, born again, etc., etc. These persons that is for, right, they had a prophet. Balaam is a prophet. He is a prophet. And whatever he said was 100% correct because he only said what Yah said to say. And then all of a sudden somebody else said, hey, we see the power of Yah upon you to the point to where if Yah decided to turn his vitriol or his anger or his gaze upon our wickedness, he could wipe us out too. So they went to the prophet and they said, we will pay you to come up with doctrine, which is instruction, right? To say that Yah told you to say something that will cause Israel to stumble. That's what you're warned about in Revelation 2:14. Be careful about these preachers and these teachings and stuff out here that are telling you that you are not who the Bible says you are. Right next to it, by the way, you go to the assembly before, the assembly of Smyrna, right? And you go back a few verses, 5 verses to be exact, to Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. What does it say? It says, there are those, or it says, that the Most High, right? Yehoshua specifically says, I hear your frustration. I know you've been going through. I know you've been going through a lot of stuff. I know that they're trying to lock you up in prisons and all that. He said, but stand firm. Don't forget who you are. Right? Know that there's going to be trouble coming, but if you stand firm, I have a crown that's waiting on you. And what does he say in between all that? He says there are those that say they are you, and really are not, but are the synagogue of the Satan. So in order for us to get into the Tanakh or the Torah, the scrolls, in order for us to go through this properly, we have to first realize not only will we be excommunicated by the assembly, by these churches, right, by synagogues who, if they really were worth their salt, they would adopt us in anyways because the law says that you should take care of the stranger. Right? So how much word do they follow anyways? If they're not even, if they just say, you shouldn't identify as Israel, well fine, adopt me in. I follow the law, right? If I follow the law, then I'm Israel, according to your standard. How you doing? Is it Ghetto Lawyer? Thanks for being on. Thanks for being part of the community. Right? But persons don't want to have a conversation. We are finding out who we are, including these holy days. And when you start to live by them, one of the biggest things you're going to have come against you is, man, that wasn't even for you. How you doing, Sister Casey? Prayerfully. Fingers are ready for later on. As far as being an organ player, I don't want that to sound crazy. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? How you doing, Colin? Right? How you doing, everybody on here? Jay, if I didn't say so earlier. Right? So we're missing what's going on here, what Yah has, what the word is saying. And when we find out, now that you found out that Passover is for you, now all of a sudden you're not Israel enough. But I follow the law. You're not Israel enough. I have the DNA, L2, L3, L4, L5, L1, L0. I got the blood type, E1B1, E1B1A especially. Even if I'm O positive, at least that opens the gateway to me going down the road to discuss. No, you're not Israel enough. You as the Jewish persons have to acknowledge my West African people as the children of Israel, and you're supposed to give us just as much money as you get, even though you won't, but you have to acknowledge us as what you call Bet Israel. No, not Israel enough. Well, why did it, so now I have to start asking the question, just like we talked about yesterday, there's qualifications, right, for Passover. One must be qualified. Just like a lot of persons believe, remember, you've been taught that grace means unmerited favor. It surely doesn't. Grace means the Most High is in you and you are in Him. That's what grace is. So when it talks about His grace is sufficient, it's saying who He is enough. If you have a gift, it's the grace that you give. A lot of persons don't know. If you're talking about the word charisma, which is where you get this term gift from, charisma is the charis you give. Charis is who you are. So when you give of yourself, that's charismatic. So not all charisma is great. You know how there's some persons you guys met, sisters, you ever met a guy, and all of a sudden you heard, and you were like, oh, somebody gives me the it. That's charisma as well. You just don't like to think about it in a negative. Charisma is the charis you give. Charis is who you are. So when you give of yourself, that's charismatic. So not all charisma is great. You know how there's some persons you guys met, sisters you ever met a guy, and all of a sudden you heard, and you were like, oh, somebody gives me the it. That's charisma as well. You just don't like to think about it in a negative. right? Or guys you ever seen girl, and it didn't matter how beautiful she appeared to be and all this stuff, you're like, something about her. I don't know. I just can't, you know. Maybe I'll set you up with somebody else, but I can't, you know. And they be upset, and you're like, I can't even put my finger on it. That's also called charisma, right? So when who you are is given to others, it's a gift, right? And when who you are is given to you, it's a gift, right? You've been given yourself. You've been given your colors. You finally can be charismatic in the way that you were created to be. And everybody's busy telling you, no, you're not Israel enough. So now we have to ask ourselves, why do they say we're not qualified? Does that make sense? You with me? Right? We got to ask the question now. If all these things we're saying are true, how you doing, Ghost? Today's topic, once again, is can you steal what belongs, or sorry, is it possible to steal what is yours? Can you steal what is yours? Can you steal what belongs to you? So question, now that you're finding out what belongs to you, right? Why is it that they're saying, see, because they can't say that you're a thief because you're taking back what's yours. They can't do that. So they have to say, well, you're not, now it has to be you're not qualified. Iconoclasm. Somebody, if you can, if you're able to use Pride or Google or, you know, Yahoo or whatever you use for searching, if you're able to, please, ma'am, please, sir, if somebody can look this up for me real quick. If not, I could try and go through, but it's just going to take me a while with my setup. How you doing, Mika? I think, oh, I got it. Thomas Cromwell. I put this out on Patreon for you guys to read. A lot of persons don't know. When we talk about iconoclasm and iconoclasts, we have evidence that persons were paid over time to change our story into theirs. Through artwork, through books. There were persons that were changed. Now, Thomas Cromwell, you might not know. Thomas Cromwell, you might not know him by name. You probably even say, that sounds familiar. He's attached to somebody we talk about quite often on here, actually, King Henry VIII. I forget, when was King Henry VIII around? 1500s? Is King Henry VIII? No, King Henry is 1400s or 1500s? 1509 to 1550 something, or 1409 to 1511, thank you. Okay, so King James not that far behind when they started looking for slaves, and they got the Pope's permission to send Christopher Columbus over after they defeated the last great Moorish king and all that stuff, right? And a lot of people go, oh, how do you get to King James? Right, we talk about King Henry. They're like, how do you get to King James? And you're saying that there's all this evidence. The person say he was Moorish. They called him a little Moor. They said he got nappy hair. They called him black. They said he was swarthy. We know his parents were African. But look at that picture right there. Yeah, that's what they'll tell you, right? But look at that picture right there on the wall. He's clearly white. Even though they didn't know what white was back then as far as a person, because remember, white is not a color. So if you exist, if you have melanin, you can't be white. I'm not trying to say anything against you as a person. I'm saying there's no such thing as a white person, because you have to have no melanin in order to be white. And anything that's alive has to have melanin or chlorophyll. Right? If it doesn't have melanin or chlorophyll, I didn't say it doesn't have to have much or as much, but it has to have melanin or chlorophyll. If it doesn't, then it doesn't exist, right? A white snowflake under a microscope is what color? Has none. A white polar bear fur under a microscope is what color? Has none. This might surprise you. White zebra fur, zebra, or is it fur? Is it? I don't know what you call it on a horse. I think it's fur, right? But or mammals. It's a mammal, so it does it have fur? I don't know. If you look at whatever it is under there, it would be clear. If you look at a white blood cell under a microscope, what color would that be? It would be no color. It would be clear. White is not a color. So there's no such thing as a white person. I don't even care if you use that term palm colored or whatever you want to say. You can't have a so-called white person, because that means that they would be completely inept concerning the amount of melanin that one needs for survival. All right? So we know that there's no such thing as a white person. That being said, you know the only reason why you find it hard to believe that a lot of these persons look like you? Thomas Cromwell. Right, look up the term, look up the word. If you're part of the Patreon family, I posted it already. I didn't even know we were going to be using this today, but praise y'all. So y'all got a little extra. If you on Patreon and you happen to read it, if not, and you didn't read it yet, read it so you can make sure you see what I'm saying is the truth. Right? I'll try to see if I can post it at the end of this during the shout out. If we're able to do a music shout out later, I'll try to post it then for you all, right? But I want you to see that you guys might not know this. Thomas Cromwell, who is basically like the right hand man and sucked up completely to King Henry VIII. And King Henry VIII, if you know about him, you know he was wilding out. He made himself the Pope of Protestantism. He's the reason why, if you're a Protestant, you don't, and you're not a Roman Catholic, he's the reason why, basically. Right? He's the reason why you go by the Western romantic Christian values that you do, mixing iron with clay. And if you're in the East, you know, then that's the persons of the Turkish, Ottoman, Eastern romantic empires, right? But Thomas Cromwell, who was under King Henry VIII with England, made it a point to get away with murder, literally, for King Henry VIII to get away with murder. And they came together and they had all these plans and he executed them, including, watch this, he got rid of, now nobody can say for sure, these are educated guesses by Englishmen, not by Pastor Kofi. Educated guess by English scholars and Englishmen. They say that they believe that he eradicated about 97% of English art. Right? Or not just art, literature, right? History. He eradicated, he got rid of, like, that's what they believe, is he got rid of 97%. That's a lot. 97% of anything. Watch this. If you had a bowl of cornflakes this Friday, and I took 97% of it, you might have a spoonful, maybe. Right? If you had some oatmeal and some cream of wheat, right? And I took 97% of it, you ain't eating that much. You know what I'm saying? If you had, if you had whatever percentage of the vote that you have, and I took 97% of those votes away, I don't care how far above you were the other person, you probably lose it. This man, Thomas Cromwell, took 97%. 97%. How much? 97%. That's a lot. That's educated guesses by Englishmen, not by Pastor Kofi. But if that's anywhere close to true, if it's 90%, look, if it's 1%, it's too much. But if it's 90%, if it's 95%, if it's 85%, that's a lot. Some of you have never made a move in your life being 97% sure you should do it. You know what I'm saying? You know how much dedication one has to have to untruth, to deny and get rid of 97%? That's worse than what Adolf did with book burning and what Stalin did with book burning. 97%. Even though, for those of you who don't like Shaka, that's worse than Shaka and what he did in offering another, because he did commit genocide. Right? He gets a nice name for it. We'll admit that. Some of what he did, not all of it, but some of what he did was genocide. But he ain't close to 97%. Idi Amin, one of the most evil persons to ever be there. African, so what? He's one of the most evil persons to ever exist. He ain't do 97% of nothing. He was even smart enough, and so was even Papa Doc and Baby Doc in Haiti or Haiti. Even they were smart enough to make sure that they didn't do 97% votes or 97. This man eradicated 97%. That means, bosses, think about this. I don't know how many days you've been alive, right? Let's just do some quick math. Can somebody help me out? I need like 5, are there like 5 or 6 persons that can help me out in the chat? Or if somebody want to do a whole bunch, but I mean, I don't want to put everything on one person. If we got some persons with some available fingers, I'm using some pause-worthy language today. If we got somebody with available fingers or available hands to be able to type something real quick, right? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a child sometimes. All right, if I can just get some help. I want you to do this. Somebody do, let's see, 300, can I get one person to do 365 times 10? All right? And just pause it, just stay there. Whoever does that one. Let's see, somebody said they can help. Who was that said they could? I think Sister Deborah said she could. So Sister Deborah, if you were, or if anybody, somebody can just say, I will. I think Sister Deborah said I can help. How you doing, Brother Dwayne? So anybody that can, whoever the first person is, I just need you to say you're the first, put number one next to your name if you can, whoever this is. Right? You will? Okay. So Sister Greta, got it? Okay, Sister Deborah, if you're going to help. Okay, never mind. So my wife got the first one. All right, I'm going to come to the next person. All right. Sister Greta, can you put 365 times 20? Nobody do anything else until we all put our stuff in. We're going to get at least 5 persons to do it. If we get more, we'll do more. Right? So one person did 300. How you doing, Brother Michael? One person said 365 times 10. That's Elder Alma. Sister Greta's going to do 365 times 20. And just leave it there for now. We're going to come back to it. 365 times 20. Somebody's going to have to help me recall the order that we're going in. Brother Jay, can you do 365 times 30? I want to just show you how much somebody can eradicate your life. How you doing, Brother Kenny? I think that was Brother Jay, 365 times 30. Sister Judith, can you do 365 times 40? Don't do anything else yet. Right? 365 times 40. And then for Brother Michael, can you do 365 times 50? 365 times 50. So I believe Elder Alma has 365 times 10. Second up was Sister Greta, 365 times 20. Then I think it was Brother Jay, 365 times 30. It was Sister Judith, 365 times 40. And it was Brother Michael, 365 times 50. If somebody else wants to participate, you can. Oh, Deborah? Okay, Sister Deborah, you did one. Sister Deborah, do me a favor. Can you do 365 times 60? 365 times 60. I want to show you something. Now we're going to do some percentage. Every single one of you. So once again, Elder Alma was first, 365 times 10. Next was Sister Greta, 365 times 20. Next was Brother Jay, 365 times 30. Next after that was Sister Judith, 365 times 40. Next up was Brother Michael, 365 times 50. Next up was Sister Deborah, 365 times 60. Okay. All right. Okay, Brother Dwayne, if you would like, do 365 times 70. The more we do, the more not only concrete does it become, but it's going to be great. Now, this is what I would like for everybody to do who's just listening. Right? And if you're somebody helping out with one of those numbers, feel free. Or if you want to go ahead and go 80, 90, 100, for real, start going by hundreds after that if you like, whoever's doing it. Right? But for those who I ask specifically, this is what I'd like for you to do. I would like you to find out 97% of your total. So I believe it goes like this, right? I think the easiest way is to take whatever number you got as a total and multiply that, right? So for example, Elder Alma was first. She did 365 times 10, which gets you 3,650. Right? I want you to, so she would multiply 3,650 times 0.97, I believe. Right? Yeah. She would divide, so she would multiply 365 times points, decimal place, 97. Right? And I ask all of you to do the same. So whatever total you got, right? It was Elder Alma for 10, Sister Greta for 20, Brother Jay for 30, Sister Judith for 40, Brother Michael for 50, Sister Deborah for 60. I forget, somebody else came up and we said you can do 70. It might have been Brother Dwayne and somebody else. And then I think we had somebody else that said y'all can take 80, 90, 100, etc. Right? So forgive me, I might be off on something, right? But if you take your total and multiply it times 0.97, right? Take your total that you have and multiply it times 0.97, times period 97, times decimal place 97. What do you get? Right? And I want you to, if you can you give me your total and then give me your 97%? I think that might be off. Am I doing it the wrong way? Now, see, I gotta try it. Let me see. I might be telling you I'll do the wrong thing. Let me try and see if I can find out. Let's see, 3,650 down 0.97. Okay, that's not correct, is it? Oh, okay, I get it. It is correct as far as me getting what 97% is. Okay, sorry. Reverse that. That's how we get 97%. Okay, so that's how we get 97%. I need you to do two things. Sorry, those who are helping, forgive me. I'm not the greatest at math all the time. I need you to take 3,000 or so, whatever your number is. I need you to do two different. I need you to do two different equations. I need you to do whatever your number is times 0.97, and then I also need you to do whatever your number is times 0.03. So you should be able to give me three numbers. You should give me whatever the total was of your 365 multiplied times whatever number. You should be able to also give me your. You should also be able to give me what it is times 0.97. That total times 0.97. You should also be able to give me that total times 0.03. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense or not, right? But for example, for Elder Alma, she got 3,650, right? So 97% of that is 3,540.5 days, because these are days. So that means that out of 3,650 days, add three, possibly four, depending on when they fall in days, to that because of leap years. But basically, out of 3,650 days, Thomas Cromwell would have wiped out 3,540 and a half days. Right? Which means that if I go back to that, right, 3,650 times 0.03, that means that out of 3,650 days, if you want to make it 3,655 to be safe, right, but out of 3,650 days, he only left 109 days. We want to round up 110 days for us to find out anything about that. In your life, and that's just a 10-year-old. A 10-year-old, right? If you own, I need you to comprehend how crazy that is. The percentage and the efficiency of evil that had to be done. Sorry for the bad math. I'm back on track now, right? But I want you to know. I want you to know. And by the way, mic check. Can everybody see and hear me? Okay. Hopefully you can. Right. I want you to realize. How you doing, King? Said the amount of evil that had to be done. The amount of dedication to evil there was. Where somebody would say, out of 3,650 days, I will only leave you with 110 days of information. If we were to do it like this, that's a 10-year-old, 3,650 days. If I were to take a 10-year-old's 3,650 and I were to erase 97%, it means they have 4 months of knowledge, 110 days. Not even. 3 months and like 27 days. That's how dedicated they were to erasing you. I need you to see that, right? When somebody says, man, they're trying to just bring on, no, they were that efficient to where, because guess what? That means if you've only got 4 months of knowledge about yourself at 10, that means that you've got newborn knowledge about your life. That means you have newborn knowledge about your life. Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear what I'm saying? Literally. Somebody out of 3,650 days only left you with 4 months of information about yourself. What was the next one up? It was, or who was the next one up? And thank you, babe. Who was the next one? Sister Greta had number 2. What was it? 3,650 times 20. So if you're 20 years old, that was 73,000 days, right? If we were to look at that, right, the percentage, out of 73,000 days, right, 70,810 of them were taken away. That's for the 20-year-old. The 20-year-old has a lot of experience. 70,810 days, that's nothing to sneeze at. But somebody took, literally, Thomas Cromwell, 97%. He took away 97% of who you were to make sure that King Henry VIII and Protestantism, Christianity, could replace who you were. That's why you don't even believe, even though we know his parents are African and we know he was Swarthy, it's hard for you to believe, even though he wasn't fully righteous, I get that, but it's hard for you to believe that King James actually looked like us. They had iconoclasts. They had persons who destroyed statues. They had persons who took the noses off of statues. They had persons who completely eradicated history. Think about that, 97% out of 73,000 days. 70,810 of them were dismissed. That means if we do the math the opposite way, right, and we look at just the percentage that was left over for you, that means that of 73,000 days, only 2,190 of those days were left for you. Right? 2,190. If we were to divide that by 4, or let's divide that by 365, right? We're talking about 6 years. So the 20-year-old, if 97% is eradicated for, and really that's not even correct, right? Let me go back. I must not have hit the right button on that. Let me go back. 7,300? No, 73,000. It was 73,000? Let's do times 0.97. Okay. Now let me do 70,810. Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I'm doing that wrong. Sorry, I told you my math is not all that. Give me a second, sorry. 73,000 times 97, or times 0.03, we want 3%. That gives us 2,190. 2,190 days. Okay, yeah, so we divide that. If we divide the 2,190 by 365, okay, yeah, so we get 6. You know what? I'm gonna go. Something I'm not doing isn't making sense. Oh, I'm sorry. I know what I'm doing wrong. 73,000 times 0.03. 2,190 days. Yeah. Okay. So if we look at this properly, sorry. What we get to, right? Because we're only leaving 3%. Oh, I'm sorry. That's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm doing that wrong. We get to 219 days. That's what we are. Sorry, y'all. Took me a minute. We got it together. What is? Oh no. Okay, TikTok. I'm gonna go ahead and just say the name of it. TikTok is doing something weird. They're saying they're gonna end the live. Why are they saying they're gonna end the live? I don't know. But they're saying they're gonna end the live. They come up with this thing during the live session where it says that I can try and put a puzzle piece of something together. I tried to slide it across. And it says for safety verification they did whatever they did. I tried to slide it across, it won't let me slide it across. Now it says the live will end in about 2.5 minutes. So this time they didn't say that we were doing anything wrong, but now they said that they're going to take it down because of some safety verification or service error or whatever. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this. We'll go ahead, let's do a Salah moment where we are, right? Because I was messing up on my math anyway. So let's do a Salah moment. We'll come right back. I apologize. Literally, it's about to turn off. It won't even let me turn it off. I keep trying to give it feedback. It says feedback success, but it won't let me say anything. So I apologize. Y'all. But let's just finish up just this one point, and then we'll probably take a Salah moment, let them come back in. I apologize. If you want to come back in the room, just pay attention. If it's your first time with us, you're looking for KOFI, my name, Kofi, _OFORI, and the number 3. Okay? So it's going to go ahead. It's not letting me put in the thing to make sure that we can stay on, and it's not even letting me give feedback or whatever. So it is what it is. Give me like, once it turns off, maybe give me about 1.5 minutes, because I'm gonna make a brief video letting TikTok know, basically let everybody know, hey, sorry, they're cutting us off again, and then we'll come back on. But I do apologize. I don't even know if you guys can. I can't talk. I can't even. I don't even know if you guys can see me on there. If you guys are writing, typing, I can't see anything. All I see is this big white sign that says safety verification. I'll show it on YouTube. That's all I see. That's all they got up on here. They're making it a point to be like, you're not getting back on. So I'm not even sure if I have time left. It says the live will end in 51 seconds. So it is what it is. Right? But I say all that Thomas Cromwell, and not everything that he erased was only about so-called black persons. But he erased a lot. Once again, 219 days. So if the 20-year-old would have 219 days, that means they would have just enough knowledge to be around what? Is that 9 months? What's that, about 9 months? The 20-year-old doesn't even have a 1-year-old comprehension of who they are. That's crazy, bro. It's getting ready to end this, so come back in about a minute. Or at least it said it was. Oh, it just got rid of the connection, period. Okay. Yeah, that's crazy work. Give me a second, y'all. Make a brief video. Sorry. All right, shalom, peace, everybody. Once again, we are having issues with being able to just post something on here. So I do apologize for whatever reason. They've made it to where we can't go live for whatever reason. Maybe it's a problem across all of TikTok. I'm not sure, but just letting you guys know we're going to be back on a little bit. Also letting TikTok know. Once again, please allow us to be back on. We haven't done anything wrong. You guys keep trying to find creative ways to have us come off. If so, we'll make sure we send stuff into the legal team that we always seem to have to with you guys. And then you guys eventually do what you're supposed to. If you guys were on the live session or you know they do this to us a lot, feel free to just put something in there and add TikTok at it. And we would greatly appreciate you doing so. All right, thank you. All right, shalom, peace, everybody. Let's see. Yeah, they can hear you on YouTube, but yeah, I know something's up, and TikTok basically made it to where we couldn't come back on. They did it in a really interesting way this time, so I couldn't stop it. So I'm gonna try to restart it. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, you guys. I apologize. I'm not even sure. We're gonna have to go back because where we were was where I was messing. I was finally getting the math correct. So y'all gonna have to hear me go through that spiel again. But this time it should be more correct. I do apologize. What they literally did is crazy. What they did over there. They literally took what we were doing. It's crazy what they did on there. So they literally took. So if you never gone live on that platform before, what they did is they have a little puzzle piece or something that that'll come up and it's supposed to show that you're a real person because some persons just need information continuing to flow through and it's just recorded. So basically, they asked me to do. I do that every live, no problem. What they did after that was they decided. They then said basically that that once I swiped and did what I'm supposed to, they said, oh, you have an error in the system, this and that, or whatever. That's the first time they've done that. And if it's an error in the system, or they have a problem with signal, then they would just say like you have a signal issue, but that's not what they did. So very interesting. that they did that or whatever. But I apologize, everybody who's coming on this platform. Thank you for joining us again. I appreciate you. I made a little quick video. If you happen to see it later on, please just feel free to add TikTok and at TikTok Legal Department and let them know that, there's enough foolishness going on or whatever, and that them stopping stuff the way that they're doing is against their own rules and regulations. And if they're sending out rules and regulations for us, they should abide by the same ones. That being said, though, I appreciate you all for all being on the platforms, and I thank you. We're back on all the platforms, at least, hopefully so. But that's why I be telling persons, when you go down this road, you have to be ready to be excommunicated from a lot of stuff. That was number 2 of this series, episode 2, if you will. So, anyways, and thank y'all for sharing the live. Appreciate you and the shares, likes, subscription, hit the notification tab, all that. This is part of the territory when you tell the truth and you live by truth, even if you're small and up and coming, right? Always realize how big you are. They'll fight this big against truth. And we're supposedly not a threat. You got to realize that they realize that us coming into any knowledge of ourselves is a threat. And so today, what we've been talking about more than anything else is, can you steal what doesn't belong to you? But we were talking about Thomas Cromwell and the math. So we did the math, and we found out that if you were a 10-year-old, right? Elder Ahmed had looked it up for us. If you're a 10-year-old, then 3,000 you would have lived 3,650 days. That's at age 10, right? And so as a 10-year-old, 3,650 days. If you multiply that times 0.03, that gets you 3%. And 3% of your life as a 10-year-old. That's how much that ended up being. 3% of your life, that told us that you were only 4 months. You weren't even 4 months. You were like 3 months and some change. Or was it 2 months? 4 months. Yeah, it was 3 months. 3 months and some change, like 110 days. 109.5, I believe. Right? Now, if you're a 20-year-old, then you haven't even lived a year. You've lived about 9 months, somewhere around there. That's how much Thomas Cromwell erased, because he erased 97% of the history. All right? I believe after that, we said we were going to, was it Brother, it could have been Brother Jay. I can't remember at this point. I believe it was Brother Jay. I'm going to help out some because all the signal and stuff got messed up, and I was messing around with this stuff, right? So if we go 365 times, or times that point, 365 times 30, that gives us 10,950 days. 10,950 days. Not bad, right? But if we take that 10,950 and we say, and we multiply that times 0.03 to get our 3%, that's 328.5. That means if somebody was 30 years old and they wiped away 97% of your life, beloved, you're still not even at a point to where you're 1 year old yet in knowledge about you. I'm just trying to show you, this is one person. This isn't all the iconoclasts. This is not every single person who believes or doesn't believe what I'm saying. No. This is one person, Thomas Cromwell. One person under one administrator, well, probably worked for, I don't know if he worked for the son. I think he might have ended up getting it from King Henry too, eventually, and losing his life. I can't recall that. But he was somebody who was faithful to him, right? And in just a little season, right, was able to, re-educate, if you want to call it that, re-educate, repurpose, to lie about our people. Lie about all people, for real, but definitely lied about us. And this is one individual. 30 years, he wiped away so much that in 30 years, if you were a 30-year-old, you would only be able to find, and that's if in the other, that's us assuming that in the other 3% that's left, that somehow, some way, right, we can find, we can find you. That's assuming that in the other 3% that's left, somehow, some way, all of that 3% is talking about you. But let's say it is, just for the sake of argument, to make the math easy. That means that a 30-year-old could be walking around and have less information than 1 year of their life concerning themselves. Who are the true Hebrews? Well, if you're talking about who are the Israelites are easier to coin that. But Avda, or Hebrew, really are persons who we're talking about as far as Hebrews. Avda, like the original Avda, Ivrit, Some of you want to say Yehudia, or Yehudah, Judah, but Judah is 3 nations at the most, right? So if you're talking about the Hebrews can be several persons, especially even if you're just talking about the lineage of Abraham. He has, what, 8, 9 sons? So the Hebrews are bigger than just Israelites. So not all Israelites, so every Israelite is a Hebrew. But if we're talking about Israel, which is, we're talking about specific promises, nation building, Revelation chapter 7, Jeremiah chapter 3, Isaiah chapter 9, Genesis chapter 3, Revelation 12, etc. But then we're talking about particular people who come from the belly, or well, not in the belly, the seed. If we're talking about bloodline specifically, then we're talking about seed. If we're talking about DNA, we're talking about L2, L3, L4, we're talking about bloodline, E1, B1A. But yeah, we are the children of Israel. I'm the child of Israel, whichever way you want to slice it. Modern, other way, both sides have to recognize who I am, right? But we also know that those who are in the kingdom, those who follow, not all Israel is Israel, and there are a lot of persons who say they're Israel by blood, right? But don't actually do what they're supposed to anyways. And so would y'all look at that person who breaks law just because they're an Israelite and say you're allowed to break the law? Would he hold you accountable? All right. So anyway, but we're talking about today, can you steal, right? What we're actually focused on today, can you steal what is yours? And we're talking about how much stuff has been stolen from us, and they take this particular platform right here took us down when we were getting into some major truth. So we're coming back to it. So get back to that. So if you are 30 years of age and somebody takes 97% of who you are, right? You're not even one. You're not even 1 year old. In order for them to, right, you'd have to be 3 years old in order for them to take 10%. Or I'm sorry, for them to leave 10% for you. These persons only left 3%. These persons only left 3%. All right. Next person, next one we had up. Please forgive me. The whole thing of all that stuff being taken down, everything messed with my memory a little bit. But we had, because I try to go, in my mind is very sequential the way it works. So I'm stuck a little bit on all that foolishness. But give me a second. So we had Jay. I think after Brother Jay was maybe Sister Judith, right? Sister Judith had 365 times 40. That gets us 14,600, right? Now, how you doing, Nick? Thanks for being part of the community. Right? So that gets you 14,600. Now, once again, Thomas Cromwell took how much percent of erased art, literature, verbal stories, whatever he could? They assumed he erased 97%. This is one person. 97%. Okay. So what is 97% of 14,600? Actually, Sister Judith might be up. No, Sister Judith was 40. Right? That would be 14,162 out of 14,600 days. 14,162 days were jacked. Which means there were only 438 days. So if somebody lived 40 years, beloved, if somebody lived how long? 40. I'll just have to say Tina from now on, because if I say that platform name too many times, they take me down. But if somebody lived 40 years, that means that you lived, let's see, hold on. Let's just go by 30s to make it easy. 30, 60, 90, 120. Okay, so if you had lived 40 years, you only had 1 year and 1 year, 4.5 months of your 40 years is actually still exists if you were in a place to where Thomas Cromwell was. Exactly. You see the setback? As we go further and further, can you see how detrimental this is? It gets worse the older one gets. Right? The 10-year-old only have 4 months of knowing who they are, but they're just 10. The 20-year-old had, let me make sure I got this right. Yeah, the 20-year-old had about 9 months. The 30-year-old, if you wipe away 97% of who they are, I might be in the 30-year-old wasn't even 1 year old yet. Oh, no. The 30-year-old was barely one. I'm off somewhere in that. But then the 40-year-old we see here has only a year and 4.5 months. 16 and a half months. If they're 40 years, right? Let's do 40 times 12. 40 times 12, they lived 480 months, right? You got it. So that means they are missing, if we subtract it, let's just round up to 17 months. They are missing 406 months of their 480 months concerning information concerning themselves. That's if they've even been taught what's left over. They're barely a toddler. They're 40 in years. But in eternity, in eternal mind, in spiritual mind, in pneumatical thought process, in psychology, concerning themselves, they are only what? They are only toddling. Hopefully by that point they can walk. Hopefully they can say mom, dad, and a couple key words. We're not even worried about them saying sentences at that point. That's where they are concerning themselves. Let's keep on going. We have Brother Michael, right? I believe Brother Michael, you were next up. Let's do 50 years. 365 times 50 got us what? Brother Michael. 365 times 50 got us what? That's right. No wonder we can't reconstruct pyramids. We can't reconstruct ourselves. We can't look at our thought process. We don't so-called religion. We don't know what our own religions was. We don't know what our own language was, etc. Makes us wonder what else we don't know, right? All right, there we go, Brother Michael. So 365 times 50. So a 50-year-old. That's a midlife crisis, age 40 to 50, right? 365 times 50 gets us 18,250 days. Once again, add a few more days on for leap years, whatever. Right? 18,250. Oh my greatness. I almost don't want to do this one. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna get crazy with 60 though. 547. If you are 50 years old and somebody wipes away 97% of who you are, that's what Thomas Cromwell is estimated to have done. That's just one person in England. Changed everything, eradicated everything, erased everything, made everything look like what King Henry needed to be so that his family and his bloodline would look like they were in charge the whole time. How you doing, John Jacob? Thanks for being part of the community. If somebody erases 97% of your history and you're 50 years old, we were looking at 50 years of history, and somebody were to erase 97%, we're left with 547 and a half days or 548. Let's just round up to 548. That means that you are not even, I won't say you're not close, but you're what, a year and 2/3 old? You're about a year and 2/3 or a year and a half old. Right, because 730 would be 2 years, and you're only at 548. That's right, come on. Can you see, thank you, can you see the great deception? Where they're telling you and I over and over again, oh no, you guys have access to everything. Nobody's done everything. One dude, how you doing, Black Rose? One dude came through and said, everything in English in England right now, I'm getting rid of 97% of the so-called history. So the black Englishman who says that he knows who he is at 50 years old is in a position, many of them are less than, because remember, we're making the assumption that all they got in the other, year and a half, year and 3/4 that's left, we're making the assumption that all they got was history about themselves. We know that's not true either. But let's just say that's what you got. That means in 50 years, if somebody eradicates, you only have 97% or 97% of who you are is taken away. You only know about a year and a half of yourself. I think it was Sister Deborah who was up next. She doing 60, right? You were doing 60, I believe. Or was it Brother Dwayne doing 60? And then Sister Deborah, I think Brother Dwayne was doing 60 and Sister Deborah was coming behind with 70, or vice versa, whichever one, whoever it was, feel free to put it up on the screen. What did you guys get? If we do 365 times 60. That's tragic. But we still going. We got to hammer this point home, because persons will make you feel bad about learning about yourself, but somebody stole this much from you. And now here it is, you're able, with the help of Yah, to piece it together, and they're trying to treat us like we're the criminals, like we're the thieves. You were 60? Okay, what's 60? What's 365 times 60? You probably put it in there already. Okay, you had 70? All right, thank you. I'm coming to you next, big bro. 365 times 60. What does that get us? How many days? And if you notice, these days seem to be a lot until you live them, and when you start looking back, you're like, ooh, these days go by faster than you think. Right? So it even goes by faster than we think. There we go. So we got 21,900 days. Right? Maybe put in a couple other days because of leap years, so maybe we get to 21,909. Thank you for being that efficient. Right? I'm going to keep it to I'm going to round it to 21,900. You ready? 21,900. What's 3% of that? What's the 3% left over if somebody eradicates 97%? It's 657. You're still not 2 years old yet. We've gotten a lot closer. You see? It's hard to know who you are. Right? We're talking about somebody 60 now. We're not talking about 50, we're not talking about 40, we're talking about somebody who's 60 years of age. And still, if you take what was left of them and present it to them, right, then the most they can have, if every second of every day of their experience, including their dreams, 100%, 24 hours, 24/7, nonstop, if we were able to teach somebody about themselves from what was left over, the only thing you would have, percentage-wise, we won't be able to teach you 657 days worth of knowledge, considering who you are. How you doing, Carrie Ann? Thanks for being part of the community. That's dangerous. Let's keep on going, because remember, this is one guy, one person, Thomas Cromwell. Right? So if somebody sits out there and says, man, you guys, what's the importance of this? Nobody really took away your history. You can just start with Thomas Cromwell. That's your ace. That's not your trump card, right? That's not that big joker. That's not Joker Deuce, right? But that's definitely an ace on there. Hey, Thomas Cromwell. Yeah, thank you, baby. How cruel is that? Come on, to do to a people. And then sit up there and tell these persons, and that might be your first time hearing about it, but we don't recognize. How cruel is that to do to a people, and then have the audacity, right, to be audacious enough and auspicious enough and proud enough, and to have your chin up high and do what the writer of not Blessed Assurance, what's the other one that they always like you to play? I think it's an E flat. Amazing Grace. At least that's the key I used to play, and they want you, now everybody tells you that it's supposed to be played in D flat because they want you to say it was all in black keys. You can play it on black keys, and for the most part you can. It's not exactly correct, but for the most part you can. But anyways, Amazing Grace, I forget the name of the person who wrote Amazing Grace, but he said, I sinned with a high head. This is minister. This is a person in their church. And he's talking about when he was, I'll use the word once or twice, when he was raping our women, when he was forcing them to lay down, when they were taking babies out of our wombs. You know, back then they just called it what it was. Now you want to call it that A word that rhymes with extortion. Back then they just said, hey, we experimenting, we're going to see what we can do, and they rip it out. Right? And he said when they did these things to us, that he sinned with a high head. He had his, what is he had, the Napoleonic look. Y'all know the Napoleonic look. He sinned like this. He was a gentleman. That's what he did. He sinned. He was a gentleman. That's why I don't like gentlemen. Don't ever call me a gentleman. No shade. If you do it by accident, it is what it is. I'm just saying, I don't like gentlemen. Because gentlemen, they do a lot of stuff that's not gentle. Maybe it's gentile, but it ain't gentleman. Right? They're at ease with our scorn. He said, I sinned with a high head. I looked like this. I'm sorry to be so in your face with this, but it is what it is. He said, I forced your woman on her knees while I had my hand like this. That's what he said. That's how he treated us. That's how he treated our mothers and our sisters. That's how some of them still treat us. It was Newton. Thank you. Yeah, Newton. Not Sir Isaac Newton, but Newton, yeah. Is it John Newton? or something like that. He minister. You go to a church, it's got his plaque on there, everything, and it'll say, "This is the man who wrote Amazing Grace," even though more than likely it was slaves he heard singing, and he took what they sung and put it in the word. But that's what he said. He preached racism, white supremacy. Not just racism, not just white supremacy, but racism, a system based off of competition for who? For certain white families to be on the top, and for you to always be on the bottom. He was a gentleman. And he took care of ladies, but the N-word females, that's what they called our women. They weren't, you could have babies with them and everything, but they weren't really, they were property, they were not human. You said, "So sorry, it's always about race." Well, if you have somebody who literally preached about how it was okay to force women on their knees because of their skin color, then that would be about race. That would be, right? Or so-called race, because if you know what race actually means, race is supposed to be something interchangeable with species. At first, it was races have different animals race against each other in competition, survival of the fittest, Darwinism, right? But that was even before Darwinism. If you study about Carl Linnaeus and others before him thought that you could put all species in different races, right? They didn't call them species yet, right? Then they started saying that humans evolved from animals, but if they did, then they must be human races, right? Different from different species. And then once you go from there, then you get Darwin, who also was a preacher. That's the only real degree he got. He didn't even really earn it. His family paid for it, but that's the only real degree he got. I won't even say real, because who knows? One day maybe somebody would grace me with something where they give me a degree for my work that I put in. Sure, right? Especially if they're teaching at their school, why not? But so I won't say he didn't earn it, but the only one that he actually went to school for and his family paid for was him to be a preacher. And he was a so-called, what we would use the term, he was a racist as well. And if you read his book, written in 1859, which you probably don't know anything about it other than it's saying maybe the origin of species or maybe some of the theory of evolution. But the book is actually entitled The Origin of Species by Means of Natural Selection, or The Survival of Favored Races in the Struggle for Life. I'll say that again. The origin of species by means of natural selection. What does natural selection mean? Oh, it means this about the deer and about coming together. So no. Or, semicolon, the same is what the front is what the back end is. If you don't know what he means by natural selection and the origin of how all species, races, came together, he talks about that in his book, written in 1859, right? We know what's going on around there in the Americas around that time, right? So around this same time, chattel slavery and all this stuff being a big debate, he's traveling, he's seeing different things, and he's saying this further proves why favored races or favored species should be able to survive and thrive and fight others no matter what it takes to remain on top. This is why you have stuff called the white man's burden. This is why you have stuff called doctrine of discovery. This is why you have stuff talking about the South shall rise again. Right? So if they're talking about us being on the bottom because of our skin color, and them being allowed to do what they do to our women, and then singing songs to their God in their churches to help solidify and make them comfortable with changing scripture to say that Cain was marked, that means he's black, or to say that Ham was cursed even though it was Ham's son and not Ham. If they're going to change this stuff, I'm not saying we should focus on it, but let's be honest, the system that you live in that tells you that I shouldn't even mention it is a system that allows racism to thrive and to flourish. It is what it is. So if you want to go ahead and say that I'm wrong about it, you're just lying. Or you are feigning ignorance, or you might literally just not know. Now you can look it up to see if anything that I just gave you the blueprint. You can look up all those different things. Right? And if, in case you didn't see the person's comment, their comment was, "Oh, I'm so sorry, everything has to be about race." Well, if somebody literally is an iconoclast and Thomas Cromwell literally erased 97% of our history, should we not say maybe he did it because he didn't want people to know who we are? All right. Last one, because we're about to lose the podcast. So last one, so they can hear this last number. I want them to at least get the last number. Last one, I believe, was Brother Dwayne. We gave him 365 times 70. Big bro, if you don't mind, real quick, can you tell me what that is? We try to fit this in for the rest of the podcast, and we'll have some other platforms have an opportunity to come in with us. 365 times 70, a 70-year-old. And then I'm going to give you one for bonus. Because we like this number 400. Whether it actually fits exactly what we need or not, we like this number 400, so I'm going to go ahead and give you that one too. Right? How you doing, Cheryl? Thanks for sharing the live. Thank you all for sharing the live and being on. Thank you for those who came back on the platform that they took down from us. I really appreciate you guys. So if we were to do 365 times 70, that person has lived 25,550 days. That's when they turn 70. They've lived 25,550 days. Cool. All right, and thank you, Brother Dwayne. He already did it for us. If we take 3% of their life, 25,550, 3% of their life leaves us with 766.5 days. That means 767 rounded up. That means that this person is barely 2 years of age. Right? I believe 730 is 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Right? 300 plus 300 is 600. 50 plus 50 is 700. Then you have 15 left over, so it's 30. Yeah, so I believe 730 days. Now you got it correct. Let me double check. You got it correct, I'm pretty sure. 50 times 0.03. Yeah, you got it correct, sir. You got it correct. How you doing, humble? And yes, I am. All right, now real quick, just for those who are about to lose us on the podcast, I'm going to do this for you. We're going to do 365 times 400. Obviously, I'm not doing leap years. That gives us 146,000. Out of 146,000, right? Out of 146,000, guess what the number's going to get us? 146,000. Oh my greatness. I might have to, they might not be able to get this on. Yeah, they're not going to get this on the pod. Okay. So 146,000. Right? Hopefully they got the number. They can do the math on their own. If we have 146,000 days, right? 146,000 days, let me make sure. That's 400, I believe. 146,000 divided by 365, I should get 4. Yeah. So 146,000 days. If we were to take, now this is what we call chattel slavery. Chattel slavery is a lot longer. Right? But even though chattel slavery is a lot longer, we'll go ahead and just roll with this. 146,000. Let's do times 0.03. And then we'll move on from this point. I think we've made it enough. Out of 146,000 days lived, if somebody was given 3% of who they are, that means all you were given, which is not the case, but we're just making the assumption to make the math work, that all you were given was 100% information about who you are, what was taken from you. Right? You would have 4,380 days out of 146,000. If we do the math on that, divide that by 365, out of 400 years, that's only 12 years. 12 years a slave makes a little more sense to you now. Right? If we take Thomas Cromwell, right? I know that's not exactly what it is. We're doing some connotation stuff. Right? Feel free to leave. I hope you have a great day, humble. Thanks for being on. Right? So if Thomas Cromwell, that's only one person, is not by my standard, by English standards. Right? And now, once again, there is they're doing the best they can. This is an educated guess. But they say you put everything together, take the artwork, take the literature, take the history, take things that were spoken and written other places, anything, they say he erased 97% of English history. That's one person. Right? And he worked for King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII is 1500. So we're talking about anything that's English, Normandy, French, Romantic, Rome. We're talking about anything that was, don't forget Septimius Severus, who was a black emperor, who's the one responsible for the way the streets look in Rome and London to this day. In London to this day. Right? If you go and you walk the streets of London, above ground, underground, you have to walk in what Septimius Severus built. So-called black man, right? So-called African, Roman emperor. Had 2 sons that sat on the throne behind him too. They've erased 97%. One guy, Thomas Cromwell, erased 97% during the time of King Henry's being on the throne. 1511 or whatever it is to whenever he passed away, 1550 something. That's dangerous. That's one guy, one person. He gets offed. Right? And if we take it, once again, I believe the number for years, 400 times 365 gets us 146,000. Out of 146,000 days over 400 years, if we were to apply that same thought process to you getting 3%, if that, of who you are, all you would be left with is 12, out of 400 years, you'll be left with 12 years of knowledge of who you are. So when we go back and we start saying, well, we want to make sure we establish who we are. We want all 400 years. We don't just want 12 years. If you start taking back who you are, does that make you a thief? Or does that make you free? Salah. Come on, Holy Spirit, you teach it today. She having her way. Let y'all have his way. I'm just, come on now. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what they've done? I ain't gonna remember by blood. You see that? If somebody steals that much of who I am and I begin to take it back and live in it, how can I steal what you took? And if I take back what's mine and you try to make me pay for it in some way, you're more of a thief. If you say you're gonna try to off my leadership, to punish me, you offed MLK, you offed Malcolm X, you offed Marcus Garvey, you offed Medgar Evers. Those are the 4 M's I love, but we can keep on going. You messed with Noble Drew Ali, right? You messed with NOI. We ain't got to us. You didn't mess with Israel for sure. You took what was ours. You did so in the 1940s at the end of World War II. Right? You have the Rothschilds invested in us. You have literally a bank, World Banks, the English bank, the Bank of England, so is the Church of England too, but the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve and all these different banks, they belong to the same Rothschild family, and they put Ashkenazi persons in charge of it each time. They are making money off of it. Now here it is that you are saying, we are the nation. Yes, John Brown too. I guess we say he's an honorary Israelite, right? I'll talk about John Brown, but right? I'm just saying, and all these, we can talk about John Brown, we can talk about Tim Wise, we can talk about Jane Elliott, there's others in there too, right? I'm just saying, there are persons, but what I'm saying is for us as a people, you taught us specifically, right? You taught us that we were nothing because of our color. You taught us we were nothing because we needed to fit whatever mold you said of chattel slavery. And now that we're telling you, wait a minute, no, if anybody were the kings, or if anybody were Malachi, then guess what? If anybody were the kings, or the royalty, for that matter, right? Male or female, if anybody was royalty, it was us. And then we start to read the Psalms and we realize, wait a minute, you guys are at ease with our scorn, and you have filled us with contempt, and are filled with contempt for us. Now, what makes us so contemptible? What would make us so contemptible? Contemptible is a crazy word, by the way. Contempt. Like not only is it a lawful word to hold somebody in contempt, contemptible is a crazy word because, contemptible is what Yah uses in Malachi chapter 1 or Malachi chapter 2, one of them. It's a word that he uses to say what the offering was when we were giving Yah moldy bread and sheep and ox and all that were blind and had cancer and sick and were, all the different things and we were giving Yah things that we wouldn't even give to persons that we hated. He calls that contemptible. He said, when you did that, you made the offering contemptible. But here it is, they want you to feel like that about yourself. Should you ever feel contempt about your offering? Uh-oh. We headed somewhere with that. Right? Can you steal what is yours? Right? It's not that difficult a question. Can you steal what's yours? If it's yours, you can't really steal it. But they want you to believe that you can, because you're supposed to feel contempt. You're supposed to feel the same way about yourself that you do about an offering that Yah says he wouldn't accept. That's what you're supposed to feel about yourself. That's what they want you to get up. That's what's going to happen on today, on Sunday. You're going to get a bunch of messages where persons are going to tell you why you should be okay with being on the bottom, and why you should, and why they want you to believe that humility is the same as their so-called piety. And in their so-called piety is supposed to be attached to poverty. Tell you if I'm lying. If I'm lying, I'm fine. Hopefully she recalls this. If not, that it is what it is. But we had a conversation, this was years ago, when we were at the church. We were helping one last time for a church where pastor and family going through some stuff. We were helping them on our way out, right? And they had just finished a series, maybe a year prior, or right when we came in or something. And they were trying to go back into it again. We were able to get them to go into another series. I forget what it was. I think it was about holy days. We were able to get them to start going about holy days, right? But their series was on the gifts, on the spiritual gifts, written by, I forget the sister's name. It's a decent book, actually, but it was written by a particular sister. I can't remember her name. Let's say a certain sister, I don't know her name, right? But basically she was in the book. They would talk about these spiritual gifts. They pretty much make them 15, maybe 18, and in there they said there was a gift called the gift of poverty. Now, I'm not here to tell you that you got to be rich, right? Because the poor will be with you always. So rich, even the Bible says we're always rich. So even when we talk about poor or rich, you have to look at the context in which one speaks, right? Because if we're really a community, what we say we are, but if somebody doesn't have, then somebody should have, because if they're part of the community, they should be able to eat off even the edges of the 10% of what's given, right? And thank you for being on with us. Thanks for being part of the community. Essence, how you doing, right? But a lot of persons will say, like, oh yeah, like, you hear a lot of sermons today. Don't worry about it. The Most High is with you, or God's got it. And even if you don't have, look at this person who didn't have. They won't tell you that, yeah, look at this person who didn't have, but y'all didn't provide it. Or the assembly provided, right? Like, they might have only had 300 that went to battle, but y'all still provided victory, right? Joseph might have been gone through all the stuff that he did, but y'all was still with him, blessing him, keeping him. Every place that Joseph was, he became second in command of, or person that was running everything, no matter where he was. And at the end, he got a lot, right? And he had a plan. When y'all gave him a vision, he also gave him a plan. When you should have your Yahweh plan, you should have your Yah plan, you should have your Elohim plan, you should have your action plan, your love plan, right? Don't just be like, oh yeah, if Yah gives you vision, part of the vision is making it plain upon the tablets, that somebody can read what you have written, read what he has given you, and run with it, right? But a lot of persons, right, or they'll say, oh yeah, well, some persons are poor and some persons are rich, and we all have to be able to come together. But those who had back in the day, when they gave tithe, they would allow persons to come and even pick off the 10% of what they had. Right? But they're not going to tell you all that, because the biggest problem is you're supposed to live together. You're supposed to operate together. You're supposed to do business with each other. You're supposed to come to an Israelite. I know you don't want to hear this, but that's Bible. You're supposed to come to an Israelite, or even if you're grafted in, if you're in the kingdom, whatever you want to call it, you're supposed to come to each other first. Because why would you give the world Yah's business? And why would you not lift up your brother's business instead of lifting up the world's business, knowing that the world doesn't care about you? Is that a truth? Is that a true statement? Is that a factual statement? Does that make sense? I know somebody, they don't like that because you're not used to somebody preaching that, but that's the Bible. The Bible asks, why are you so busy giving to every other nation except the kingdom? If you love him, you would keep his commandments. One of his commandments are what? To give to the assembly. And by the way, can I fix this up too? Because I know one of our brethren will come at me with this or whatever. A tithe or a tribute, because that's what the word originally was, a tribute. But if we want to just subscribe only to a tithe and 10%, cool. A tithe is not just only food. Because the first tithe that was ever given was given by Abraham. And Abraham gave 10% of everything. A tithe was never just your food. That's why they asked, right? You guys remember Yehoshua, our Messiah? You remember he was at, and I'm not even saying y'all got to flood us with finance, whatever. That's between you and Yah. That being said, though, if you're going to be obedient to it, you remember there was a woman who came and gave all that she had. I don't know what it's worth now. I know when I was a child, they used to teach us it was like $50. So she came up and she gave all that she had. It was like $50. And there were all these other people who had way more money, and they were flashy about it, and they would make sure that they put their money in, and everybody was so excited about what they do. You know, just like everybody writes what they put in the envelopes now and everything, so everybody can go, oh yeah, look at Deacon so and so, look at Pastor so and so, look at Minister so and so, look at Sister so and so. They got it going on. But Yehoshua stopped and all that stuff because he said she gave what she had. The amount is not what matters, right? It's what is it? What does it mean? This is us taking our culture back. Same thing with us taking these holy days back. We don't know enough about culture, so we're out here and now we're acting just like the person who we call the oppressor, doing the same stuff because the oppressor doesn't want to give. First of all, the oppressor doesn't want to give. He'll give to his community enough to make sure that it flourishes. He'll give to his community because he knows that he has to protect his family, but he ain't giving no time. And the more money he makes, the less the club. He's not even using his money. You know, that. Like, I know somebody don't want to hear this, but this is why we're not of the world. All right. I know somebody don't want to hear this. I'm gonna tell. I'm compelled to tell you anyways. So even if you don't want to hear it, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to hear it today. All right. You came to the right place or the wrong place, however you see it. If you didn't want to get truth, but you're gonna get this today. All right. And how you doing? Is it JJ Tapperty? I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. But let me help you with something. You know, in the world, the more money that you get, the less money that you use. And so if you're ready to be rich according to the world standards, you can't give. You can only take. I'm gonna help somebody out. I know you're not ready for this. I know you never heard somebody talk like this or whatever. And I'm not saying because I'm all that. I'm telling you because I'm sent. Right? I need you to know. I'm about to give you something that you're not gonna get anywhere. You might want to take heed to this. I'm about to give you a truth. I'm about to give you a truth. Okay? You ready? Straight up. About to give you straight up truth. I'm about to give you straight up truth. All right? I don't care what platform you listen in. Whatever, thanks for joining us on different platforms, whatever. I want you to hear it. You're getting straight up truth right now. All right. Can you steal what's not yours? Or can you steal what's yours? Is what we're talking about today. But watch this. In order to become richer in society, you have to give less. That's the way the world works. Not the way the kingdom works. How you doing, Brother Clarence? It's not the way the kingdom works. It's the way the world works. How you doing, Duck House? Thanks for being part of the community. If you want to make more money, the higher up somebody gets, the less of their money they use. For example, those who are into sports. In the NBA, we just had supposedly a major thing. It takes place all the time. I don't really care. But it's a major happening, right? What is it? KL2 something. I forget what the name of it is, but Kawhi Leonard has a LLC that he created to be attached to some group. I forget what the name of the group is, but to some LLC that was a dummy, or not even a dummy corporation. It basically was a fake corporation. The person who was the CEO already got in trouble and is going to be indicted, or is indicted, I guess. I'm not sure, but it will be or is indicted, basically, and has admitted already to, basically taking at least $250 million of billions that they raised and doing whatever he wanted. And a big thing that they did was they wanted Steve Ballmer, who owns the Clippers and is the sixth richest man in the world, at least according to what I've heard persons say. I haven't researched that. I've heard persons say he's the sixth richest person on the planet. And he went through this corporation. Now, he did give a few million to him. I think he gave 50 million. And the goal was to make sure that he could use them, right? He was laundering money. He was cleaning the money up so that he could give it to Kawhi to get it through his corporation. Now, persons do something like that in sports all the time. So if you're whatever about it, so be it. But they did supposedly break their own laws that they wrote in, their union, right? And their own laws that they wrote as owners of, they were part of this corporation, right? That's known as, the National Basketball Association. Steve Ballmer is the sixth richest man on the planet. But he understands first of all, he understands money's not real, right? You used to get real things. And secondly, he comprehends how to funnel it or how to get it to flow. It's called currency. You don't make money by holding on to it. You make money by making sure that it flows. If it flows properly, then you get something out of it, right? If you're at the water and the water doesn't move, you probably don't want to drink out of it. It's stagnant. But if the water is moving, you'll find life, and you should drink. Right? So I say all that to say, a lot of persons don't realize the more money that you make, these millionaires, billionaires, stuff like that, they're not giving their own money. Right? They're being disobedient when it comes to money. Statistics show that the more money someone makes, the less tithes they give, and the less offering. Right? If you recall, see, I'm gonna just give you persons, and this ain't white or black. This is just we're talking about money. We're talking about green, right? That's what they say, right? So we're talking about green. Shannon Sharp was on an interview, and he was telling somebody that, hey, I get my tithes and offering. You better bless whatever I tell you to, or else I'm gonna stop giving you my tithes. This is before, he got caught up on all the other stuff he got caught up. But that's disobedience. Right? Are you supposed to give less because you make more? That's become what we do. Right? That's become what we do because we don't want to give. But is that what we're called to do? Called to be disobedient? Or are we called to follow the law to the character? And not change one jot or one tittle? We're not supposed to change one jot or one tittle, correct? We're not supposed to change anything, go the way it's even written. The only reason why persons keep trying to find a way out of giving Yah what they're supposed to is because that they're trying to be the very person that they say that they wouldn't, that Yah doesn't love. Right, Luke chapter 6. Luke chapter 6, verses 37 and 38. Luke 6, 37 and 38. 38 is where you get give, and it shall be given unto thee. Allah comes measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over shall man give unto your bosom, for the same issue that you meet shall be given unto thee. And it's not wrong to necessarily say that it's with tithes and offering too, but it's not the context. The context, this is the context. So once again, Luke 6:38 is give, and it shall be given unto thee. Allah comes measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, shall man give unto your bosom. For with the same measure that you meet, the same ruler, measure, the same rule that you display, that you give, it shall be given unto thee by the ruler of rulers, the King of Kings, right? Okay. But the verse before it shows us where we should be. This is when culture comes into it. And I haven't forgotten what we're talking about. I haven't forgotten the plot. I promise you. Just follow me. If you like, I'm getting a little lost. Stick with me. Verse 37, Luke chapter 6, verse 37, it says, judge the way you judge. Condemn in the same manner that you would like to be condemned. And forgive in a manner that you would like forgiveness. That's why it says the next verse, whatever you give, it shall be given unto thee. So however you judge, realize that's how you'll be judged. However you condemn, realize the Most High says they're not perfect, they don't know everything themselves, but if they condemn a person according to this, then they at least, according to their standard, they should know that if they condemn persons like that, then I'm gonna condemn. And then forgive. If they don't forgive, then I don't forgive. This is why forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. And then he comes back later on and verses, so it's that's Matthew chapter 6, verses 9 through 13, the Lord's Prayer. And he says within there, forgive us of our debts as we forgive our debtors. Verses 14 and 15 of Matthew chapter 6, he comes back and says, doubles back on the forgiveness, and he says, make sure you forgive the trespasses, right, as well as you, right, because if you don't forgive those trespasses, then guess what will happen to you? Your trespasses don't get forgiven. And look at the language of it, right? Verse 37, judge the way you want to be judged. Matter of fact, let's go back some. If you look at Luke chapter 6, look at the language of all this. This is law. Yahushua, our Messiah, the Messiah. He said tithing is money, it is everything but money. God don't want money. Well, first of all, I don't worship God. I worship Elohim. God in Hebrew is just a man. He's one of the 13 children of Israel. Number one, right? 15 if you want to add the two that were adopted in. Right? Number one. Number two, right? God is a Germanic way where you can worship whatever you want. Number three, it's interesting the person that would say that also has God written on their money and probably, keeps their money away from their so-called God, even though according to Abraham, which is Abrahamic covenant, which didn't go anywhere, according to Abraham's covenant with the man of Yah in Canaan, or in Canaan, or Padan Aram, or what would later be called Israel, Abraham himself gave 10% of everything he had. Right? So this whole thing that God doesn't need your money is you just basically being like, man, he's all that. I'll give him whatever I feel like, but I'm going to keep my money for myself. You sound like the person is problematic in Malachi chapter 1, 2, 3, and 4, or the word is literally called the burden of the word of Yahweh to Israel. There's nowhere in your Bible where it says, Yah doesn't want you. Watch this. Once again, we just talked about the woman who gave the 2 coins that I told you when I was a child. I used to say it was worth $50. It's probably worth way more now. But that's all that she had left. She gave all that she had. And Yehoshua didn't say, now, she probably was blessed and stuff, but Yehoshua didn't go and talk all these extreme measures about this and that, but he pointed her out above everybody else. Persons were given more. It wasn't about the amount. It was about her heart. So you're absolutely right. You shouldn't only, here's the way it works. It's not that you should give everything except, is that you should give 10% or tribute. That's really what it is. It's tribute. And you should give tribute of everything. Y'all should get my first hours of the day. Or at least the best. If I buy 10 apples, he should get one. Or somebody who's up him should get one. Something to serve him. If I go to the store and I buy my son 10 outfits, I should say, son, which of these outfits is your favorite? Okay, we got to get that to somebody. Or if you wear this outfit, you only wear it in his service. Something like that, so that he gets the message. Watch this. Here's why persons are afraid. And this is why we have to take back our holy days, our culture, our customs, our conditions to do it properly, so that there is no such thing as poor, because even though the poor will be with us always, they will always be taken care of. Problem is that you guys have been raised in poverty, with a poverty mindset for so long, including myself. And my father did well, but it doesn't mean that I wasn't raised with a poverty mindset. We were raised with a mindset to where you keep. Don't let go, don't have anything, don't spend, don't do this, don't use anything in your community. Just use only what gets you what you need, right? Because you're of the thought process that you'll always lose. But my father, my daddy, owns all the cattle on 1,000 hills. Yeah, I caught a piece of you talking about it. I didn't get a chance to say hi. Yeah, but Brother Dwayne was talking about this. Please check out his live sessions that he does. He does them pretty much every rising, at least right now, right? But a lot of persons, you have a mindset that says, oh, if I give, I probably won't get back, because you're not part of a community. You'll sit next to people in church. Some people don't do it today. You'll sit next to them in these different sects and pews and all this stuff, and you'll sit there and you'll sit next to somebody who wouldn't give you a dime, but you're supposed to pretend like you love each other as if you give them the shirt off your back. But if you won't, well, watch this. There's sometimes somebody comes to me and yes, I can find a way to give them something that they actually need, and they might not actually need money, or they might need to be taught about how to use money, or they might not need sovereignty yet because they don't qualify for the sovereignty, right? They're gonna act a fool and mess up, right? That means, right? There's some persons you check, like if you tell them about sovereignty, this is why I try to teach it offline, or at least on other places that are not on these social media platforms. But a lot of persons are not going to do what they're supposed to do with it. That being said, there are times, yes, where somebody does need me to give, and I give them what I have, and what even SOC has, including, yes, money. Gold and silver retired. Yeah. As a matter of fact, there's certain things that Yah doesn't even want if you want to go deep. Now, this is what you should probably research, is how does Yah even want you to go as deep into the stuff that you're talking about? Because some of the money that you're getting, or some of the gold and silver that you get, he doesn't even want you to touch, because it's connected to heathen stuff, connected to stuff that's not of him. And he wants you to have faith. Some of you will go and get whatever job they give you and take whatever money they give you because, hey, I just need money, But he says, will you trust me enough that when I tell you, hey, those persons over there, those people over there, not only are they going to die off, anything that they have on the way out. And some of you will go over there and still grab it and curse all the people of Israel, all the people of the kingdom, all the people that go to your church and everything, because you're so afraid about not having. But you say that you have faith in the Elohim who owns everything. Which one is it? See, when we take back the holy days and the mindset of the holy days, we have to take back the entire belief system. Because you're not worthy of the holy days if you're not worthy of, or if you're not worthy of, right, or at least you don't think that the law is worthy of protecting you. Let's just do that. if you don't think that you should make sure that you follow principles and statutes and commandments and laws, and make sure that you keep culture correct and stop changing the word and stop allowing different cultures and different belief systems and different languages that don't even believe and agree with what you are, who you are, and they have lied to you. Remember, one of these persons who helped start Protestantism, Thomas Cromwell, who helped make King Henry VIII the first pope of Protestantism. Yes, Protestants have popes. King Henry VIII is the first pope of Protestantism. And they erased 97% of history, just English history, and they did it 97%. So anything that existed before the 1500s, Thomas Cromwell, with being allowed by King Henry VIII and by King Henry VIII's son, possibly, I'm not sure when Thomas Cromwell, he might have been off by King Henry VIII, I have to look it up. So let's just say, to be safe, Thomas Cromwell, with the help and with the allowance of King Henry VIII, erased 97% of just English history, English literature, English art. If there were persons that were painted black, they were painted white. We're talking about just England. They don't tell you the Septimian. I mentioned this stuff already. The Septimian Severus literally is the reason why London looks the way it does. Emperor that looks like you. And they erased it. They took stuff from Zululand. This is later on, of course. They took stuff from Swaziland. They took stuff from Ghana. Right? They took stuff from Nigeria. Nigeria, by the way, used to be called something different. It was a corporation. It was only called Nigeria because the side piece of the owner or the CEO of the corporation, his side piece liked the name Nigeria, and she said name it after that because Niger or Niger means kings or royalty. So she said call it Nigeria, and so he listened to his side piece. The company still makes a whole bunch of money off of it. What I'm trying to tell you and teach you is that you're going off of this stuff and you don't even know what it is. Right? When we're talking about these holy days and teaching these holy days and telling persons what they need to do, you got to realize that we have been mistaught and misrepresented for so long that anything that appears to be us, we're ready to go off on it and say why it doesn't matter. And somebody's got to, somewhere in this, we got to say enough is enough. Whether you like my saying it or not, at some point enough is enough. Right? How long should you allow a lie to exist? How long do you think? How long do you think that the Most High wants a lie to continue? How long should a lie exist? And how you doing, Marvin? Excuse me. Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, Still the Shark? Thanks for being part of the community. How long do you think the Most High wants a lie to continue? How biblical is it to lie? Right? A half-truth is always a whole lie. So either you got to complete that truth, or you got to stop living by the lie. How long? Right? Yeah, we don't allow it to stay around. Like, how long? How long do you believe that the Most High wants a lie to continue to be what guides your decision making? Sure, it should be stopped in the mind, because it's mind over matter. I agree. The only reason why these things even matter is because we don't have a mindset to fight against the wickedness. Right, but how long? How long are we supposed to allow wickedness to continue to take place or to be involved? Or do we at some point say it shouldn't exist? Let's get rid of it. We will not allow it anymore. We have no place for it anymore. Right? At some point, it shouldn't be there. What you say? How you doing, finding little? Every time you try to learn how to do it, you get distracted and frustrated because you want to do it right. Well, watch this. Take a step and praise y'all for each step, and pat yourself on the back and be around others who will pat you on the back when you take a step in the right direction. As we said earlier, what was it, 100? We went over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, and looked at 3%. Because remember, Thomas Cromwell, he erased 97% of truth. Just one person. Now, obviously, he had persons under himself, but he erased 97%. Right? We're talking about 30, 40 years or so, or one person constantly erasing history, or what we consider today to be history is really his story, not ours. But nevertheless, right, when we even went to the point of even looking at 146,000 days, which is 40 or 400 years, because we like that 400 years line. 146,000 days. And out of that, out of 400 years, we came up with only 12 years. If you took only 3%, only 12 years is about the truth. Now watch this. I want to show you on the opposite side how this works too. We've done this, but we haven't done this in maybe a couple years. Right? I want to give you something else, if you don't mind, my brother, my sister. Just hang in there for a second. I want to show you the opposite of this. Because somebody says, oh, no, you guys are just reaching and who cares? And even if you don't know about who you are, just learn everybody. Everybody's cool. But I want to show you how on the opposite side, they don't believe that. They believe that everything with racism, white supremacy should still exist, including you not being Israel enough. That's part of racism, white supremacy. Don't forget some of the names of those who owned you and shipped you and traded you for wine and put you on those ships that they even then try to come behind and try to erase that history. Even though we can look in the water and find them, they go, their person, you know, I know persons don't know this, and you just listen to what a lot of persons keep putting in the air. You know how like they'll tell you that there's a such thing as, they'll tell you there's a such thing, forgive me, what is that called? They'll tell you there's a such thing as toxic masculinity, and they won't tell you that it was two gay so-called white men that came up with that. You know, that shows you that maybe I should look at that term a little different. But they won't tell you that. But I'm going to just show you something. Years-wise, right? Because we just said that one man could erase 97% of your history, and then they'll turn around and they'll tell you and I, how dare, you know, you should be over this, or how is it that you cannot find this, or it's not really as bad as what you say, or why are you listening to persons who are out here saying they want you to believe in this foolishness, right? So I want to do something for you, beloved, if I may. I want you to do somebody else or anybody who would like. Multiple persons can do it. I don't have as many years for us to go through this, but let's look at this, okay? I'm gonna do two simple equations. Two simple equations. All right. I want you. Can somebody do for me? Let's see. First one. Let me get my years together. 1591, 1691, 1791, 1891, 1991. Then what we have? 2001, 2011, 2021, and then 4 years. Can somebody do 1 divided by 534? Right? 1 divided by 534. Can somebody do that for me on the calculator? And then I need one other person to do. Can somebody look this up? I'm not sure. How long has the United States of America been a country? We know it's really a corporation now, but you can even use 1776. Go ahead, cheat. You don't have to go to 1789, 91, 87. People will argue over which one is correct. So let's just do this. So let's just do the math, right? 1776, so that'd be what, 1886, or 1876, 1976. That's 200, and then we have what, 86, 96, 2006, 2016. So we're almost at 50 years. So we'll say 49 years. Next year's supposed to be 250-year celebration, right? Can somebody do for me the math? Can somebody divide 4? This is how they got us offline last time. Let me see if they try to do us dirty again. Let's see if they do us dirty. They told me to put the puzzle piece in where it's supposed to go. I just did it. Now they're doing some weird stuff. They're trying to get us off again. I'm gonna change the signal up. Let's see if that messes with something. Excuse me. They might get rid of it. They might do us dirty again. Okay, they got it right this time. All right, cool. Somebody do me a favor though. Divide 4. Let's just say 250. Can somebody divide 4 by 250? Somebody was supposed to divide 1 by 534. Excuse me. Can somebody else divide 4 by 250? if you can. And we're going to show you something. Now, we just showed you that you barely know about who you are, and one man can erase 97% of who you are, right? Okay. Excuse me. Give me a second, y'all. I'm sorry. Ugh. I'm trying to get another platform on here. I'm sitting up here coughing too. What are we talking about? What's the theme for today? Oh yeah, can you steal what is not yours? Hopefully you guys have kind of gotten the gist of this. All right, prayerfully you gotten the gist of this by now. You see what's going on here. Right? So we just went over earlier all these different percentages. And Shabbat and Shalom to everybody joining us on all the platforms. We appreciate you. It'll be in any kind of virtual real estate we have, whether you join us in the past, present, or the future. All right, watch this. We just talked about the percentage of how somebody literally erased 97% of a history. And if you were being pumped in with 24 hours a day of the other 3%, that means that you would only have 3%. So we showed you that a 10-year-old basically has the knowledge. If using that same standard, a 10-year-old basically would have 3% knowledge of themselves. That means they wouldn't even be 4 months old. Or a 20-year-old would only have enough knowledge to be a little less than 9 months old. And we showed you that a 30-year-old, right, is basically a year. And a 40-year-old is to a place to where there may be, a year and a few months. And then a 50-year-old gets to a place where they're not quite 2 years old. And then once you hit 60, you're like just about at 2 years old. At 70 years of age, going through the same math, you would basically, if you were 70 years of age, you would have about 2 years and some change, or 2 years and a couple months, or something like that, of knowledge of yourself, right? Yet, they tell you, even with that low percentage, not to learn about yourself, right? Now, watch this. Let's go to the opposite of it. Thank y'all for the love. Let's go to the opposite of it. Because they say that you should learn about the other stuff. All right, well, here we go. No, I don't want 250 divided by 4. I want 4, excuse me, if I said it wrong. 4 divided by 250. The lesser number is always going to be the numerator in this because I'm trying to get percentage. So if you can do 4 divided by 250. And then the other one was 1 divided by 534. 1 divided by 534 gets us what was the 0.016? Is that 5 divided by 134? Or is that the 2? I think that's the 2. That's the 2 divided, or I'm sorry, that's the 4 divided by 250. Gets you 16 or 1.6% or 0.016. Crazy word. We'll not show you what we're talking about. But I first want to deal with the other one. The other one is 1 divided by 534. All right, that's point. Thank you. That's 0.00187. Thank you all for the love. Thank you for your help today. I appreciate it very, very much. All right, now this is what we're doing here. Now, with the other ones, they don't want you to learn anything with that small percentage. But here's the percentage that I just told you. What if I told you that 1 year, 1493, to be specific, really it's actually 50-something years, but it becoming official. 1 year in 1493 gave you something called the doctrine of discovery. How you doing, Sister Joy? Count it all joy. I'm on. You got to go through what you got to go through, but just know you're going through it for you, right? So peep game. That 4 out of 534 years, which gets us 0.00187, which turns out to be 1.80. I think it's even less. That actually would turn out to be 0.187%. 0.187%. Not even 1%. 0.187%. There's something called the doctrine of discovery. It was made official in 1493. You've been living in that since Christopher Columbus was sent on his assignment after they decided to do it when they defeated the Moorish king in 1491. 534 years, you've lived by a doctrine that says if a white Christian male does not it cannot be found where you go. You are allowed to discover not only the place, but the people. 534 years. There's been something official. It was technically you should say more like 584 years, but we'll just go with 534 years. There's been this thing that was made official that if they find a place, the doctrine of discovery says you can discover a place and a people and things, even if they're made by people, right? And people are aware of them, you can discover it as long as there's not a white Christian male there. Yeah, not even a penny, not even a tenth of a penny. Well, is it a tenth? I think it's a tenth of a penny. If we're depending on how you're looking at the penny. If we're looking at 0.01, then it's a tenth of a penny, right? But still, a tenth of a penny worth of information is crazy work. And that, though, has been used for 534 years. Right? Like, okay, peeping, somebody might be looking at me confused or weird and saying I'm just making stuff up. Let me help you out real quick. Let me help you. All right. What do you know about Hawaii? Do you know about Hawaii from the point of view of the niece, who was the last ruler, who lived in the Pink Castle, right? That's now Tripoli Army Medical Center. Do you know about the Hawaiian and what they believe about the howling? Do you know what the... Here's something that a lot of persons didn't pick up on. You remember there was a movie called... They come out with the live version, or they're coming out with it or whatever, and then they got number 2. But there was a movie that came out not too long ago called Moana. You guys know Moana? A lot of y'all probably like Moana. Moana's a decent movie. I'm not gonna hold you. I mean, it's got some weird stuff going on, but it's a decent movie, different culture, right? They kind of mess with Maui because Maui's a lot more of a jerk and does some really weird, perverted stuff in real life, in the real life story. But they made it work, right? But here's something that you might not recall or remember, or maybe because you're not in the community, you didn't think about it. How you doing, Rustin? How you doing, Marquise? Thanks for being part of the community. How you doing, ROD? Thanks for being part of the community. Here's something that you might not know because maybe you're just not familiar with Polynesian culture. You've never learned. You never lived on the islands. You never maybe seen anybody or talked to anybody with significant time talking about their culture, their Fiji, or different things that we consider to be Polynesian. But they kept telling you that Moana. What happened was a lot of persons said, Moana she's an indigenous person who left to find persons that looked like her, and the person she found seemed to be black and brown. And a lot of persons who don't want you to know the truth, whether they be Polynesian or not, right? They started throwing around a term that you might not even know where it comes from, but they started talking about Melanesian, right? Melanesian is just a fancy way of saying black. But yeah, she was looking for Melanesians, but also Melanesians, if we're talking about African, because there's Austronesian, Melanesian, Polynesian, right? But you're talking about just black, well, yeah, the further back you go in the story of mankind, the darker everybody gets. Everybody comes from somebody that's Melanesian. You don't get, no offense to my brothers and sisters, I mean this, no offense to my brothers and sisters, but you don't get white from two whites. You can get white from black as far as what we call white, right? What we call albino. You can get that. You can get blonde hair, you can get blue eyes, you can get green eyes. That's just different amounts of melanin. That's all you're really talking about. Everybody, to a certain degree, is Melanesian, right? You can have thin lips, you can have thin nose, you can have long lips, big nose, whatever. Right? Africa, the continent of Africa is the most diverse place as far as life is concerned on the planet. Even if you just go Southern Africa, it's more diverse than any other place on the planet. If you go Central Southern Africa, you still deal with the most diversity anywhere on the planet. Some would say in the history of mankind. I don't know enough about that to uphold that. But I say all that to say, if you recall, they were talking about Melanesians. And everybody lost their mind because Polynesians, blah, blah, or no, they're not black, they're Melanesians. What do you think melanin means? It just means that you have more, you have more. So if you're more if you're considered to be black, they would call you Melanesian. If you were considered to be black from Australia, they called you Austronesian, right? But all of a sudden you black and you're part of this group, which is not, all of them are not Samoans, but you're part of this group, that we know as Samoans or Hawaiians or Fiji, etc. Then you call them Polynesians, but they're the same people. And they did it, yeah, they did it right in our faces. Is it wrong for us? Are we the thieves to say, I know what Melanesian means. I am Melanesian. If anybody should talk about a Melanesian experience, maybe it should be me. Is it wrong for somebody? Now, I'm not saying, because there's some persons who are Melanesian that shouldn't talk about a Melanesian experience. Whether they're Republican, Democrat, or whatever you need them to be. You think NYC is the most diverse place? No, it wouldn't be. It seems like it, because there's a lot of persons that live there. I'm talking about as far as DNA and everything. You'd be surprised, right? How many of those persons are really the same? Like, think about it like this. An Italian person, forgive me, I'm about to use some really despicable language, but I'm just saying some stuff. If you don't want your children to learn the language, feel free to let them, get off or whatever, right? But watch this. Watch this. What's the difference between, I don't even remember the name of I don't even know what you're not supposed to call them, so I might not be. What's the difference between an Indian person and a Pakistani person? A person from India and a person from Pakistan. If they're both in New York, what's the difference? It's Sunday too, so we go a little longer today just to let you guys know. Normally we'd be finished at 11. So if you're still on with us past 11, I'm going to try not to go extremely long, but we'll be on here for a little bit longer, especially since I had to get out the rain and stuff and come all the way over here. So, You said nationality? Yeah, it really, you can't tell, why? Because they're the same people, they're the same DNA. The only reason why they're different is because of two things: religious belief and godly. And money, of course, too. Money was paid. But they're the same people. India used to be, like when you say Hindu, a lot of persons don't even know, Hindu is not even a Hindu word. Hindu was a name assigned to all these Indians, right? Pakistan used to be India, India used to be Pakistan. So don't tell that to a Pakistani; they might get upset, right? And politics too, right? But you had the so-called Hindus, and you had Muslims. Pakistan is Muslim, India is Hindu, and some splashes of Christianity. They're the same people. Now, if you want to get deeper, there's a group of people who are called untouchables. They live in New York too. When they're in India, they're called untouchables. You know what the untouchables are? They're actually West Africans. And these West Africans used to be known as the enlightened people. They're the same nation as Buddha. Yes, Buddha's people were actually West African. They came over to India. This is why they have Bantu knots and stuff like that. This is why, if you know the history of black soldiers who went over, I was in the military and I talked to some persons who were veterans of the Vietnam War, and they'll tell you that you go over to, when they went over back then to fight, there would be people who would pull them into their groups, and they would be nice, and they'd be like, why are y'all being nice? We're the enemy. And they thought, well, maybe the people are here to save them, and they bring them in the room, they show them the Buddha, and the Buddha would be blacker than them. Right? So the Indian who hates the black person in India, right, and hates the Pakistani because they're not Indian, even though they're the same people, but they have a different belief system, right? It doesn't like the African, calls them untouchable. In New York, we live right next to each other. They're more the same than what you think. I'm talking about diversity. See, this is what I'm saying. Persons think diversity is, once again, we're dealing with racism. Even our thought process of diversity is racist. Right? No. These are the same people. They hate each other, but they're the same. You look at their DNA, they're the same. Right? If you look at their DNA, they're the same people. Shocking, but it's the truth. Right? But when you go down to Africa, what I'm talking about in Africa is the DNA be different. We just assume because they all black. No, the DNA is different. Or go back to what we're talking about with New York. If you have an Italian person who they used to make fun of, and they used to call them the wops and all that, right? And let's say you have, I can't remember what we call them today, but the Romani. Who are the Romani people? If you want to type it with it censored a little bit, I know it's not a great word to say. I just don't remember. A lot of us know about their name. I've been so big on not saying their name that I can never remember it when I need it or recall it when I need it. But the Romani, they're put out on the outside. Now you think of them as white persons, they're not even white, right? But the same Romani people, their original name is the Romani. At least what their nickname was. They actually were part of other groups and organizations, including even being Indian. They were mainly Indian, Turkish, stuff like that, right? And they went to different places, and because of where they came from, it sounded like Romani. They started calling them Romani. Now we call them something that, whatever, what's his face plays. You don't have to say the name of it. Whatever Brad Pitt plays in that movie called Snatch. Have you ever seen that movie called Snatch? Whatever group of people he's supposed to be portraying, and how you doing against Sister Michelle? Whatever group of people he's supposed to be portraying, right? Whatever they're called, whatever that name we're not supposed to call them is, I legit can't recall it right now, but that's what I'm talking about. They're called Romani in real life. Guess where they come from? India, Turkey, which means that they're Roman as well. They're Eastern European. Do you know that Eastern Europeans or persons who were in the eastern part of Rome still called themselves Romans until the early 2000s? So you're not realizing, like, these are persons who are married, like all this stuff. So when you talk about the Italian person wouldn't even like the person who is called Romani. You put them both in the same place. So-called white persons in the United States of America don't like them, even though they all come from cultures. Like if they're German, you came from Charlemagne, who was trying to say he was Roman so that he would have access to the throne that they actually destroyed. Or if you talk about England, they're trying to say they're Roman so they can have access to the same thing because they're Visigothic too. Or the Franks, the French, they're doing the same thing because they're Visigothic as well. And you have all these persons in New York, and you say, oh, look at them, they're all different people. They have the same DNA, they're the same. Right? You see what I'm saying? They're not even diverse. We're using a very so-called racist ruler or rhetoric or way of measurement to be able to even talk about different persons. They're not different. They're the same. You know, you can speak a different language than somebody else and still be the same DNA-wise. They're the same people. We have a weird measuring stick, right? You see that? So you'll say New York is diverse. Why? Because they speak French and they speak Spanish and they speak Italian and they speak German and they're the same people. And if you pay attention to the language, they're basically coming from the same place. Especially if they're Latin or Greek. Or, right? We're talking about the same thing. You start getting deep into it, and I'm not trying to make fun of it or say it's wrong. You have mixed, what we call mixed race marriage and all this stuff like that. So how many persons are even more so the same getting to the place? It gets to a place. I'm talking about diversity as far as DNA. You in Africa, certain nations, they roll with certain nations. And maybe they intermarry a little bit, but not really like all that. Right? That's what I'm talking about as far as diversity. Not just talking about, oh, they look the same as far as the color. That's why there's a difference between a Negro and an African. Even in the slave trade, you got to know who a Negro is. So when they say the Negroes accepted, and then we started running out of Negroes, or at least it wasn't as easy to get to the Negroes, so we started asking the Africans help to get the Negroes, and then when we started having issues getting to the Negroes that were left, we started coming after the Africans, and we started coming after the natives. Then you can have a different conversation, but you just think everybody black is black because that's a very very much so steeped in racism, white supremacy. That's the only reason we think like that, is because that's how we were trained. How you doing? And thank y'all for the love. We're trained to keep that up. They're the same. They're the same people, but we go, it's so diverse over there. Why? Because they speak different languages. I'm not saying that there's no culture that's had this different or whatever. I'm just being honest. We have a weird way of looking at it. So we have to take back the origin so that we can look at it as far as the way that y'all wanted us to always look at it. So all the stuff we've been saying, and yes, we have floated a different thought process and even different ideologies and different idiosyncrasies. That being said, we are still talking about the same thing, which is when we take back these holy days, you got to be ready, because these holy days come with a different culture, a different perspective, a different thought process, and it's a different nation. Only the nation of Israel celebrates these holy days. Only the kingdom of heaven celebrates these holy days. If you're not in either, then this is not for you. And if you are in them, then this is for you. Real quick, because somebody, once again, this is, somebody might be new to us going through this the last few times. You said illusion the WT created to create racism, scheme, divide human beings. Yep, and certain WT. But, yeah, right? Now watch this. I'm going to just give you a place, a reference. I've been telling everybody, if you want to get into this series with us, please continue to study up on Leviticus chapter 23. It'll bless you. right? I will be on tomorrow. I'll try to see about Tuesday. Usually Tuesday is my day off. I've been having a little bit of health issues and stuff. But that being said, I'll try my best to be on Tuesday. I can't make any promises. I did miss Thursday because of a little bit of health concern. So I promised I was going to make sure that I stay where I'm supposed to be. And I'm having a little bit of issue. I've been having hiccups and I had this weird side pain that I've had since last night. And so any of you who know first aid, CPR, you know that's not a great combination. So I'm going to be paying attention. I felt okay to do today. I feel great. I actually, the hiccups went away when I started preaching. Praise God. But then you can hear my voice and stuff, still a little tired and stuff, so just pray for me. But we're going to continue the series through October the 5th on holy days. That being said, I want you to know that these holy days are for a nation. All right? I want you to know that these holy days are for a nation. They're not random, it's for a nation. And if you're not part of the nation, then this is not for you. But you have to be ready to be separated by nation. There is no dual citizenship in the kingdom of heaven. There's dual citizenship in the United States of America. There's dual citizenship in Canada. There's dual citizenship in South Korea. There's dual citizenship in Ghana. And on paper, legally, not lawfully, we're talking about legal. Legally, I would say on paper, go ahead and get that done. If you need it for certain things, or if you want to go ahead and be covered in certain ways. But as far as the kingdom of heaven is concerned, all nations must bow. By the way, if you bow down, I want to help you with something. If you bow down, what is that a sign or a symbol of? And thank y'all for the love and the healing. By the way, don't forget to pray for Sister Kimberly and her family as well too. Right? But as you bow down and keep our dear Sister Deborah in prayer as well for today as well too. If one bows down, what is that a symbol of? What does that mean? When I bow down to the Most High Yah, if I come in the presence of a king, the presence of a queen, the presence of a chieftain, guess what? I'm prepared to bow. Why am I prepared to bow? Honor, respect. Sometimes it's just a handshake, whatever, different cultures, right? But I'm prepared. If you are royalty, don't forget, even the Most High, who sent Moses and said, hey, let my people go to worship me, and then after that said, okay, I'll let his heart harden, and he's going to let my people go. He still respected him as Pharaoh. Hey, how you doing? I don't remember how to pronounce it. Is it Matt NN333? Please forgive me, right, for not knowing how to pronounce. I appreciate you, right? And how you doing, Michelle? Right? So submission. So guess what? If I bow, what I'm saying is I recognize, first of all, I recognize your authority. But if we're talking about especially within the kingdom, if I bow, I'm saying that you are you're somebody who's over me. If you're over me and you're my Lord, it means that I'm part of your nation or your land. I know you don't know this, but lords have lands. That's why you have a landlord. Right? We don't think about kingdom. We think about everything else except kingdom. We think about voting rights, and we think about oligarchies, and we think about democratic republics, and all this other stuff, and even kingdoms that we use are kingdoms of the world, but we don't know about kingdom. In a kingdom, if I come into a kingdom, somebody's in charge, and there's a chain of command. And if you're my Lord, it means that you have been made Lord over lands. This is why he's the Lord of Lords. It's interesting enough that when we take this step back, he's the Lord of Lords, and therefore we should be looking to be lords over land. We don't have land. Yeah, we keep saying he's the Lord. If he's the Lord, it's because he has ownership over something. And if he is your Lord, it's because he allows you to exist in his space, right? Under him. And if he says you can be a Lord as well, it means he allows you to exist under him, but says, hey, take this space, this is yours, you do what you're supposed to do in this space. There's also another scripture that says what? Who shall believe our report? You as the Lord, you as the keeper, you're the keeper of the holy days. You're the keeper of the word. You're an ambassador. You're a Lord. Question, what is set apart, Lord? Talking to you, lowercase, right? Or just a capital, not all caps, right? But at the most, capital L, maybe even lowercase, right? But Lord. Where is your place, or in the territory you've been given? What place is there for the holy days? Right? You need to know this, Lord, because it's not thievery for you to do what the king says. You're not stealing what belongs to somebody else, or you're not stealing what somebody took from you if you just take back what they took. You can't be a lord if you're not given territory and rights. And you can't, and if you're given territory and rights but do nothing with it, the Bible calls us wicked and slothful when we do nothing with what we've been given. If you don't believe me, ask the man that was given 1 talent. There was a man that was given 5 talents, a man that was given 2, a man that was given 1. A man with 5 talents, that equates to 1,000 pounds of gold. He was given 5 talents, 1,000 pounds of gold. He doubled up on it. He had 2,000 pounds. When the master also means teacher, but he was also Lord, right? He let this man have all his gold and do whatever. And when he saw he did what he was supposed to, he said, keep it. What I taught you to do is what you did. And since you did it, this was for you in the first place. I got enough. I've been teaching you, and you've been in my house, and you've been in my service, because part of my responsibility as a Lord is to make sure that you can run things properly as a Lord. And if I own all the gold, then you should be able to own gold. If it's within my territory, you should be able to have some of it. There was a second man, had 2 talents. 2 talents equates to 400 pounds of gold. He doubled up, he got 800 pounds. Right? The master, the Lord of that Lord, right? The Lord of the servant, who then was made a Lord, was said, hey, you've been, to both of them, he said, you've been faithful over a few things, make him ruler over many. But there was one who was up for promotion as well, and he had less responsibility. He only had 1 talent, which equates to 200 pounds of gold. 1 talent. He's given this 1 talent, and instead of using his talent properly, the way that the Lord had shown him, he was afraid that he might lose it and not get anything. So rather than be obedient, he was disobedient. He hid it, which meant that he probably had to keep coming back, watching over it, making sure nobody was trying to get it. And then the Lord comes back and he says, hey, you know, I know that you don't like it when persons don't give you return on your investment. So what I did was I just hid it in the ground. And here it is. It's all for you. It's all accounted for. And the master, the teacher, he said, how did he double up on 1,000 to 2,000? And how did he double up on 400 to 800? And I gave you 200 pounds, you hid it in the ground. You could have at least put it in the bank somewhere and got me some interest. I've taught you better than this. Well, you know what? Since you don't want to do what's necessary to keep what I give you, I'm going to make you a Lord. I'll take what I gave you and I'll give it to the one that I know will double up. And he called us the one with the 1 talent that had it taken from him. He called him wicked and slothful. He was evil and he was lazy. That's what he called him. Thanks for being part of the community, Archangel. How you doing, Mama Tay? This is what he said. So you've been given so many different things that will help you to grow and to move, to be like these talents, to be worth things that are way more valuable than gold, for real, for real. And one of them, well, no, there's many of them, right? But let's say this thing you've been given that we talk about in this series, the holy days. The holy days. Remember, Leviticus chapter 23, verse 29 says that if you don't follow these, you will be cut off. What are you doing to make way for Yah on his holiest of days? The days that he says set these apart, even from the other set apart. What do you have in mind? September 22nd, coming up soon. Right? Those who are going to meet physically in Texas, great. In Houston, those of you who are going to see virtually, great. What do you have in mind when we come together, when the trumpet sounds? You see what I'm saying? When the trumpet sounds, what do you have there? When the horn is blown, what are you ready for? What are you prepared to do? What in your life makes you worthy of sitting down and feasting? And right, because when we hear the Feast of Trumpets, what we're looking for, we're going to talk about the Feast of Trumpets in particular soon. Might even talk about it tomorrow, I'm not sure. But when we talk about the Feast of Trumpets, you got to even realize we're listening to the trumpet, because the trumpet is the sound, right? And depending on what is blown on the bugle, depends on what we're looking for and listening for and what we're ready to do. Right? So if you hear da da da, if you're in the military, you already know what you're supposed to do. Da 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 da. If you're walking through the base, you already know. Put your hands to get in attention, face a flag and salute, or face a flag and put your hand over your heart. If you hear it is. Da, 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 da. Those who are in the military, forgive my voice right now, it's messed up. Da 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 da. You know that, all that stuff. You know what that means. You know that you stand in attention and you waiting, and you even know what time of day it is, don't you? If you heard that da 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 that I did earlier, that means get ready because you're about to hear the national anthem. Right? If you hear taps, da da da, you're going to get attention too. Da da da. If you hear, some of you even know these. If you're somewhere and you hear da 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 da. What did I just do? We just talked about either there's a 4-star admiral, possibly even the president. Could be anybody with 4 stars because I did it 4 times. And we know whoever's coming through is the big one, right? The trumpet sound tells us what to do. The trumpet tells us what to do in war. The trumpet tells us what to do as far as military operations. The trumpet tells the children of Israel when they move and when they don't. If you hear a certain trumpet, everybody in the land knows. So when we come together for the Feast of Trumpets, it's talking about us being ready to move, right? And interestingly enough, after the Day of Atonement, right, this is all within weeks of each other, right after the Day of Atonement, we're going to end up doing the Feast of Trumpets. And during the Feast of Trumpets, the Feast of Tabernacles. And the Feast of Tabernacles, we moved when we saw the cloud move, and when the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire moved, we moved. So when the trumpet sounds, we get ready to move. The Day of Atonement, we come and we ask for forgiveness for all of Israel, and then Israel begins to move the Feast of Tabernacles. Is it wrong for you to take back what they stole from you? Or is it righteous of you? See, taking is not stealing. Don't let them twist these words. Sometimes if you take something, to take something without permission is stealing. But if I take what belongs to me and I take it back, that means it was mine in the first place. Unless, I hate this term, but y'all know what this means, Indian giver. Unless you're somebody, I hate that term, but unless you're somebody who's given the gift and then trying to act like what you gave now all of a sudden should be yours. No, that's different. But if you had something snatched from you, and somebody took it even before your birth, you didn't realize it was yours, and now come to find out you have as much right to anybody as it is, why would you not take it back? Why would you not live in it? Why would we allow somebody else who was the person who stole it to tell you that you're more of a thief than they are? And once again, remember, if they try to make you pay for it in any way, shape, or form on your way out, they are more of a thief than you are. You can't take what belongs to you. You can't steal, rather, what belongs to you. You can take it, though. And why not snatch back the holy days? Passover is yours. Keep talking about you don't know where you come from. Yes, you do. Passover is yours. Talking about, I don't know what to do with this unleavened bread, learn. If anybody should be teaching about unleavened bread and the recipes and the things that are sensible for your taste buds, it should be you. I don't know anything about Harvest Day or anything about Pentecost or anything about that. Learn. Matter of fact, when you learn, you'll stop thinking that you'll stop letting these persons rob you. You think that we're robbing you talking about offerings, not realizing that literally, you guys don't realize a double portion is not supposed to be something that you use willy-nilly. A double portion is only for one holy day. If you learn which holy day is for, you'll only do it once a year. Right? How you doing, Kofi? Coming there for being part of the community. How you doing? Is it, I don't know if it's Resi or Rekai or something like that. Rain, please forgive me. Thank you for being part of the community. We appreciate you on all the different platforms you guys are joining today. Do we help with any of this? Yeah, for us, this is not just virtual, it's reality. So we have classes that we do. We have Patreon, of course, which gives a little more to this information. We have stuff that we do on Zoom. We meet up in person, different places, as I was saying before, even the holy days coming up. Not all of it, well, I only talk about the holy days. We are meeting up next Saturday in the Baltimore area, but we are going to be doing September 22nd, which is Feast of Trumpets will be in Houston, Texas. October 1st will be Day of Atonement. Marietta, Georgia-ish, Marietta somewhere-ish. October 6th to the 13th will be Feast of Tabernacles, but we also teach on it like we're doing now. We have classes, we have all types of stuff that we provide. And we'd love to have you, or even get you connected with somebody else as part of the community, including our ministerial staff, somebody who can teach, preach, be in touch, get you on some of these text streams, whatever. So when we do our shout out in a little bit, if you've never done a shout out with us before, if you'd like to come over to this, if I'm not pointing at your platform, you got to come over to another platform. But I'll say what that is at the end, because they try to take me down for anything. I have to be careful about everything I say. But we'll make sure that you get that information. And probably the first person that will reach back out to you, even if I'm not the first person you speak to, probably the first person, at least in this time frame right now, that will reach back out to you will be myself. And it's 11:11, babe. Thank you for that. Also for saying that in the chat. But yeah, so, we gotta take back. You just take back what's yours. If you are a Lord, you have to be a Lord over something. How are you keeping what you're not Lord over? This is when it gets tough. I'm going to try to finish this up as quick as I can. But beloved, this is when it gets tough. This is when it gets hard. But this is when you need to have somebody tell you the truth. How are you Lord over nothing? You don't get the title Lord because you're nothing. And by the way, called and becoming, if for some reason you can't catch the end, what we call the shout out, which is coming up at the end of this very soon, feel free to look at our link tree. And that'll give the information. If you're over here, you can look at the link tree and look at the description. If you're over here, you can look at the link tree and look at the description as well. All right, but yeah, how are you Lord over absolutely nothing? Thank you, appreciate it. You got to ask yourself some of these questions. A Lord has territory. A Lord is under a Lord, because whoever the main royalty is the one who even allows persons in to be Lord. You hear what I'm saying, beloved? And I know it's church time for a lot, so we're gonna lose a lot of persons. It's okay. Prayerfully, you guys, whoever this is for you, or they can come back and listen. You have to recognize, Lord, not Yahweh, my Lord, not Yahashua, my Lord, but you are Lord, because He's the Lord of Lords. If you are a Lord, you've been given something. So, Lord, I beseech thee, by the mercies of Allah, that you present yourselves a living sacrifice. But what are you sacrificing yourself for? Who are you sacrificing yourself to? Are you sacrificing at all? This isn't just about a clique. This is about a nation. By the way, in this nation, there's already cliques of certain types. There's already 13 children of the Most High. There's 15 technically, because 2 were adopted in. There's 12 that we need to know, especially going through those pearly gates. They're mentioned in Revelation chapter 7, right? There's positions. There's maras. There's teachers. There's masters. That's teacher. There's rabbi, rabboni, some of you say, right? Rabbi. There's chilets. That's the word that y'all use for pastor, but really it's chilet, which means assembler. The assembly is not a congregation. It's actually known as a questionnaire, or an assembly. The assembly is under the assembly. So pastors don't even have to be great speakers or teachers or preachers. They should be able to do some of it, but their main responsibility is to assemble. I have a gift of teaching. I use that to assemble. Right? But you got to take back what the enemy has stolen, or what some of our ancestors gave. This is also a difficult part of the conversation too, but we got to be honest, because unfortunately, if we be honest about it, I can't say it's for every, but for a certain amount of persons that are faithful and that are martyrs and that will die, right? For Yah live and Yah die. There's a whole bunch of persons that are like, I'll live for Yah as long as nobody threatens me. There's a certain contingency, there's a certain constituency, worldly constituency, that operates in assemblies until they are threatened, right? They are threatened as far as them not being able to have, them not being able to have an easy time. As long as it's easy, a lot of persons will do whatever. But when it comes time to where, wait a minute, Revelation 2:9, here we go again, we talked about this earlier. Revelation chapter 2, verse 9. We spoke on this earlier. What did we talk about specifically in Revelation 2:9? Right where it says, yes, that there are those who say they are you and are not, but they are assembly of the Satan. But time out. It also says that he knows our tribulation. He knows what we're going through. He knows how difficult it's been. And he says he even knows that we'll be put in prison for a time. But he says, stay committed and stay faithful as a people. And if you make it through, if you endure, as Matthew chapter 24, verse 13 says, if you can endure this, as those who endure shall be the same that are saved. If you can endure this and preach the proper word and make sure that you always recognize who you are, don't allow somebody to take over what is your birthright, he says, then there's a crown waiting on you. I got a crown. The crown is waiting on those that endure and remain faithful. There was a crown, so to speak. There was a crown, second in command of all of Kemet. There was a crown for Yasab, or for Joseph. But he still had to go through. And he might not have felt like a king when he was put in the pit by his own brothers. He might not have felt like a king when he was second in command of Potiphar's house. He might not have felt like a king when he was running the prison. He might not have felt like a king 2 years after he told the butler what was going to happen, and the butler forgot all about it. But when he was faithful to the vision and faithful to Yah's plan, he was given what he was supposed to have. I believe you're talking about Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9. Right, to the assembly of Smyrna, the second assembly. Right? Your crown doesn't come just because. Remember, we talked about this in our Body Shot series. If you haven't been part of the Body Shot series, go back and look at the recordings for that. Feel free to go and look through and catch up on those, right? We went through all of Body Shot, or all of what we call Genesis. We started February 7th and ended, where did we end? August 10th? Something like that. Right? But in that, you must recognize and realize that there's a family lineage, and we talked about this in your bloodline. In bloodlines, you have what? You have a will, right? You have a will, you have a lineage, you have birthright, you have blessing, and you have a charge. And it goes like this. If I am a father, let's just say for the sake of I'm not really, but let's just say for this example, I am your father. Right? If I am your father and I leave a will, by the way, we're technically supposed to leave wills while we're yet still alive. You know that, like, your sons are supposed to get their birthright while they still are alive. At age 22, they're supposed to be given their inheritance. Right? But let's just go off of what we know from the world, because a lot of us only know, once again, from the prism of the world. So, for the prism of the world, right, you believe that you write a will for when you pass away. And by the way, you do have a will for when you pass too. But let's just go by that one. Everybody's more familiar with that. So you have a will. So I, as a father, if I'm your father, and something happens to me, they're going to look to see what's in my will. Right? If you know, those of you who know about Julius Caesar, not Julius Caesar Jr., the one who changed his name, who you know as Augustus, right? But the actual Julius Caesar, the other ones had wills too. But Julius Caesar, when he passed away, everybody was like, oh, okay, he's going to give it his fortune and stuff to maybe, who's the other one that was married to Mark Antony? They thought he'll maybe give his stuff to Mark Antony. Or, maybe he'll give his stuff to this one or that one, etc. Right? But come to find out, he gave it to somebody that nobody knew, which was, who was a son of one of his mistresses, might have even been his real son, but he loved this person enough, and he left everything for him, basically. So when he put him in his will, even if nobody thought of him as being the bloodline, we don't know for sure if they were in the same bloodline, but once he was put in the will, as long as he did his father's will, he's now considered to be part of the lineage. Remember, number one is will, number two is lineage. So we have to know the line of ages. We have to know your bloodline. We have to know, even if you're adopted in, grafted in, etc., we have to know that you're part of the family, or else you can't be, right? Once you follow the will of the Father, then you are his child. Did you catch that? When I follow the will of the Father, I am his what? I am his child. If you even know about the word confess, if you confess Yehoshua as Lord, as Adon, that to confess him, the word in Greek is homologia or homologio. It means you must have the same logic. So if the Messiah followed the law and you do not, he cannot be your Lord. Why? Because you do not have his logic. And if you will not follow his will, how could you be his child or his wife, so to speak, that's waiting on your inheritance? See, wills are important because the will doesn't just say give such and such this amount. Wills usually say give thus and such this amount because of what? They're my family, or I adopt them in this position, or I allow them. So if I'm in his will, I'm of his lineage. This is why not all Israel is Israel. Many Israelites are born by birth, but they don't follow his will. Right? And this is why Christians cannot be Israelites and cannot be in the kingdom, because you follow some of his will. But if his will says the only way you inherit the kingdom is you follow the whole thing, then you can't be of his lineage unless you follow the whole thing. Did you catch it? Did you catch it? All right. So that's just a little reminder for some of you who've already done this. How you doing, Storm? Right? But let's do this. So his will is first. Second is his lineage. Right? So his following his will, first of all, I must be written in the book of life, which means I have to follow his will. Read Revelation chapter 20, verse 12 for that. After reading Revelation 20, verse 12, there should be no doubt that I have to follow his will in order to have it be written in his will, right? So if I follow his will, I'm written in his will. If I'm written in his will, then I have an opportunity to walk through the pearly gates, the names of Israel, the authorities, the family of Israel. All right. So now his will is done that allows my lineage to be made known and to be, my name, therefore, to even be changed, if you know about the white stone and all that, right? Now, after that, I go from his will being done to the lineage to now what comes up next. Now I have to look at the birthright, because if I'm of his will and I'm in his will and I follow his will and I'm of his bloodline, right? I'm of his lineage, adopted in or just of his bloodline, whichever. Then guess what that means? Then now that means I have a birthright. And you know, when a birthright is specific. Not everybody gets a birthright. How do you get a birthright? We just said you have to make Christ your Lord. What does that mean? You follow his logic. You carry your cross like he carried his. You do the will of the Father like he did. You follow the laws and the commandments like he did. If you won't do that, then how can you be a fellow heir, right? How can you have the birthright if you're not in line, lineage, with the will of the Father? See, these holy days are important. You got to stop allowing persons to tell you why you shouldn't do the will of Yah, because it don't belong to you. It belongs to any and all who will obey it. Anybody who obeys the will of Yah, right, is therefore part of his family, grafted in, adopted. And if you are adopted in, as long as you continue to fight the fight for Yah, for us, for yourself, for your family, and for mine, and hopefully myself, then you're my brother, you're my sister. That means you can't be part of another nation. Because if you'll fight the American fight before you'll fight the fight for Yah, right, this birthright ain't for you. If you'll fight to be Chinese before you'll fight to be in the kingdom, this isn't for you. If you'll fight to be whatever color you want to say that you are, because your color is who you are anyway. It's part of who you are. It's not the only thing, but it's part of who you are. That being said, if that's the only thing that's going to get you in there, then you don't even know the difference between a Negro and an African. And if your whole thing is to be like, hey, well, because I'm not that, it actually shows that I'm more faithful, then this ain't for you either. Because, you know, sometimes we go overboard, because once again, racism, white supremacy exists, and so in order to change it, we think that we have to reverse it. You don't reverse it. It was never right in the first place. I'm not trying to reverse the racism. I'm not trying to reverse course. I'm trying to get off of that course altogether, because it's not for me. You see what I'm saying? Right? We can't think like the world does, or try to think reverse what the world does. We think we're at enmity with the world. The world is my enemy. I know you don't like that, but that's another one. We don't leave it there. Time's almost up. So number one is the will. Number two is what? The lineage. Number three is the birthright. And then if I'm of the birthright, whatever I'm giving, that's considered to be a blessing from Yah. You see that? A lot of people say, ooh, I got a new car. I got a new home. Did Yah tell you? Did Yah give that to you as a birthright? Are you of his lineage? Because you can get, you know, the devil can give out blessings. right? Your enemies are the ones who said, hey, if your fathers leave the home, we'll give you guys more money. And somebody said, ooh, in the 1920s, 1930s, black folk that weren't doing that well, even though we had land. We said, oh, okay, father started saying, shoot, well, I'll leave the house. If it means that we're going to get, $50 more this month, we can figure this out, baby, no problem. Seemed like a blessing, didn't it? Until you realize what it was for. See, it was a blessing, but the birthright is not what you thought it was. The birthright is attached to the lineage of the Satan, and as long as you're in his will to break up your family, well, then in his lineage, he'll make sure that he gives you a birthright of $50 if that's what you think will get you off the land. And if you'll do that, well, then shoot, consider it a blessing. But remember, even in Malachi chapter 2, the Most High said to the Levites, to the leadership, if you keep being against my will and you don't make sure you raise these babies right and do what you're supposed to, every blessing that you have is cursed. Come on. So you got to look at who the birthright. If you're not attached to the Most High, the birthright ain't right. I want the birthright of the Most High. That means I've got to be in His will, including these holy days. I got to be in His will. I got to take back. Not what the enemy even always stole. Sometimes we gave it up, but you have a right to take it back. Do you know that the Bible says that that no weapon formed against us shall prosper, and every tongue that rises against us shall be condemned? But guess what the next part of the verse says? It says, this is the inheritance of Israel. As the Israelite, anytime somebody tries to say, oh, these holy, blah, 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 I have the right to condemn their tongue. As long as it be righteous. I have the right. It is the inheritance. It is the birthright of us to be able to speak against the enemy and condemn their tongue. Any weapon that's formed against us, not only will it not push forward and prosper, but every tongue also can be considered to mean nation. Every tongue, every word, every nation that tries to rise up against us shall be what? Shall be condemned. If you condemn a house, can anybody live in it? I wish we'd have more time. We're in the last couple minutes. If you oh my goodness. If I condemn a house, nobody can live in it. Nobody can live in it. That's why we make Christ the foundation. He is the denominator. He's the only denomination. The numerators don't add up if the denominator's not the same. He's the only denominator. He's the only denomination. Everything is built upon Him. He is the chief cornerstone. And the stone that these builders refuse, right, the ones that they rejected, shall always be the head of the corner. He is the foundation. When it comes to a building, you can have a building without a roof. They might still let you live in it. Right? Depending on where you are. You can have a building without a roof. They might still let you live in it. You can have a building that has no wall on the side. They might let you live in it. You can have a building with the windows ejected. They might let you live in it. Depending on your state in the United States Corporation. But if you have a bad foundation, automatically it's condemned. You can have floors with holes in them, and it still not can be condemned. But if you have a bad foundation, if what you're living on is not what y'all want you to live on, they'll say nobody can live there. Right? Grounds for no one to live there. The family, the house, the community must be kicked out. Right? These holy days are important. So number one, I got to be in His will. Number two, I have to do what? I have to be of His lineage. Number three, that allows me to be of the right birthright. Therefore, number four, I'm able to get blessings from Him. And then number five, I'm given a charge. Lord, He's the Lord of Lords. I'm talking to you in your Lordship, Lord. I know it sounds like I'm being sacrilegious. I'm not. If you dig what I'm saying, if you get the context, you know where I'm coming from. I'm telling you, Lords, listen to me. If you've been given territory, you're charged to take care of the territory. You're charged with the children. You're charged with the adults. You're charged with your spouse. Right? Lords, you've been given ownership over territory. Not even ownership. You don't own it, but you've been given the right to make decisions because your Lord believes that you will do what He would do in that instance. And if you don't know what to do, research or call, right? and he got you. Or watch the person that he puts in your life. Because he wouldn't put you in this position and never give you somebody that can't walk this with you. Look for those persons when they come around. And be obedient, know the word enough to know if they're speaking word or not. That includes these holy days. If we're not going to be obedient to the holy days, I'm here to tell you a lot of this stuff that you keep talking about is not for you. Once again, Leviticus 23, keep researching that to make sure that we're on track with what we're teaching. But Leviticus 23:29, above all, it says, when we don't keep this up, we will be utterly cut off. We don't want to be cut off from Yah. We don't want to be cut off from the nation. We don't want to be cut off from the kingdom. We don't want to be cut off from Israel. We don't want to be cut off from the truth. We don't want to be cut off from each other. Because for real, nowadays, especially in these last days, who do we have if we don't have each other? I got a whole bunch of messages this week, especially the last couple of days, where I realized, that for a lot of us, who do we have? We don't have each other. A lot of tough times. Persons losing their parents. Persons, having issues with housing stuff. The enemy coming across them. Us needing somebody to keep us sometimes calm, including myself. Including myself. I got out of pocket a little bit this week. If we don't have each other, who do we have in these last days? These holy days are designed to allow you to not just survive through the foolishness, but to thrive in the midst of the storm of foolishness around you. If we have nothing else, we have each other. And prayerfully we'll take advantage. Alrighty, but I will see you guys tomorrow. We went over. It's if I go over any more than this, I'm kind of taking advantage. It's Sunday, which is our family day, so I'm going to go ahead and take my lead. If you want to come over, I'll go ahead and set names to the platforms now because we're almost over. Thank you for being on today on the podcast, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Clapper, IG, and more. If you'd like to invite us to come over to stuff that you're doing, by the way, as long as you give us the time. I'm trying my best. I'm kind of still busy. But I'm getting more and more free as we're having more persons step up and do things. So I'm trying my best to come around and stick my head in live sessions or come to places that we're invited if I happen to be on the road or whatever. So if you'd like us to come to something or do something, reach out to us. Feel free to use the link tree or the descriptions with the video. If you hear me talking about recordings, most of them you can find on Facebook or just come on YouTube, either or. Our YouTube channel is called #FindTheKofi, #FindKofi. We have a Facebook page, Servants of Christ. We have a Servants of Christ Facebook page. We have a Servants of Christ group on Facebook as well. You can also find me personally on Facebook if you'd like to do that as well. I'm going to use it mostly for kingdom stuff. Doesn't mean that I'm going to say hi or laugh at jokes and stuff. But, I'm going to use it for the focus. But still feel free to reach out. If you try to DM us or email us or whatever, I try my best to keep up with those, but I get a whole lot of those. That being said, if you text us at the 202 numbers you find or the link tree or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us. One of the things we'll ask of you guys to do now, if you don't mind, we're going to go ahead and do our shout out though. Time is up and I'm not going to keep you. So when we say our shout out is pretty simple. If you want to go over to TikTok and join us, we can't do it on all the platforms. We can only do it on TikTok. So if you'd like to come over to TikTok, when the music begins to play, once again, I'm going to ask if you don't mind being obedient to that. Once the music begins to play, we're going to ask for you to put your information in the chat. When we say your information, we don't want your name, we don't want your number, we don't want your email address, we don't want your residential address. When we say your information in the chat, what we're looking for specifically is if you don't mind putting your country, your province, or your state in the chat, and also possibly your city as well. Once we see that, once the music starts to play, once we see that, it will let us know who we're reaching when we're reaching you, but also it will allow somebody to reach out to you at a later point and check in with you, give you some information, allow you, if you're okay, check in with you to see if you're okay with us reaching back out to you and connecting with you probably first through text and then maybe through a quick call and then getting you involved in a lot of stuff we're doing as well, physically, virtually, spiritually, emotionally, etc. Once again, for us, it's not just virtual. This is reality. So please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to have you for a lot of different things we're doing. Whether I'm there or not, the goal is for us to come together as a community and eventually, to be honest, we have some land and now at this point we got to start looking at land in multiple places, but we're focusing on a couple specifically, trying to make sure that we really get this stuff in order because we know that in these last days we really need to make sure that persons are coming together. So in the next couple of years or so, we're kind of already had the land kind of a couple years, like a year and a half. I wasn't really able to do what needed to be done on it last year. So this year we're really kind of focusing in on it. We're trying to get stuff growing in different places. We have different foods and stuff we're going to try to make sure we're sending out. I'm not sure if we're even going to be able to send out the ones we want to send out this year, but we're trying. For the children, by the way, we still have your gifts and everything. I'm just trying to, I guess I'm just going to have to send it when I can. I was trying to send them all out together. We're having all types of issues. Even our FedEx account, apparently, they messed up something. So I'm probably going to have to just mail everything myself. We thank Sister Greta. She did put the stuff together. We do have some stuff even from last year for the children. And I do have stuff that I have written out for the children. So I think I'm just going to have to send it myself rather than trying to do a huge thing. So y'all just hang in there. It's not like last year. I even did a video where I showed you guys on TikTok. I showed you guys the actual bookmarks and everything that Sister Greta made. But that's obviously just some of it. We do have those who gave. We don't have their, well, we can let it be known for the persons that want to be known who helped with the children, or if the parents want the children and to say thank you to the person who helped them. We do have that information. It's just taking me a little more time, especially with sending stuff. So I think I'm gonna just start with just letting everybody know these are the persons, these are the numbers who are attached. And if you guys want to know who, what child got what, or if the parents would allow that to happen, I will let you guys know that, and we'll go from there. Okay. But don't forget, especially, we got all this stuff coming up, these holy days, especially though Feast of Tabernacles is going to be here before you know it, October 6th to the 13th. If you can make it all the days, great. If you can make it a few of the days, great. We need to know at this point how many days you're coming. We need to know what's going on as far as tent, bed, all that stuff. Even if you need help at this point, we just need to know in advance. And we're trying to raise, so for those of you who are able to give, by the way, it's 5 to 10. For those of you who know about the 5 to 10, and give $5 to $10 donation towards helping us out with stuff down the road for land and stuff like that with SOC on Sundays. Thank you for doing that in advance. Thank you, Patreon members. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. Just your viewership, and you're growing. You're becoming better is great. Those who are doing things behind the scenes, in front of the scenes for us as well, we appreciate you as well. All right, but love y'all. Take care. The music's going to begin to play. Once it does, feel free to put your information in the chat. So thank you, everybody, for being on. We appreciate you. As always, we give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the honor, who is life, is able to be honored. And as always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, our website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. TikTok specifically, Bloom and Flourish 3, not A and D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish, and the number 3. You can email her at bloomandflourish1@gmail.com, and you can check her out at Bloom and Flourish on other platforms, Bloom and Flourish, Maya, Ofori as well. So, love y'all. Take care, everybody. We appreciate you. Remember, as always, beloved, that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, in you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Last Shalom. Take care. Peace. Early Layla Tav to those if we don't see you or talk to you for the rest of the day.